blazing so bright, calling the fight from vigilance. We stand from dawn to twilight. The empires rise and conquer. In the wild face of danger, carry on to the victory. You better take a deep breath. Each dawn it brings a bitter fight. Another chill may run down your spine. Fear looks beyond the edge of sight. Carry on to the glory, to the great victory. Never give up till you die. Never give up in this life. For every word that you win bright, it's time to become. Never give up on your mind. Hold your weapons, try to fight. For every kingdom that falls and rise, it's time to become legendary. Chaos, sharpen your knife. Make way to find your destiny. Worship a man or a shrine. Can both recall the scattered. In the wild town of wardrobes, tearing down all the enemies. You better capture the arcs. The carriers may bug you down. Set up for the swiftest ride. Sneaky Texas work as a best alive. Carry on to the glory, to the great victory. Never give up till you die. Never give up in this life. For every word that you win bright, it's time to become. Never give up on your mind. Hold your weapons, try to fight. For every kingdom that falls and rise, it's time to become legendary. Across the ocean lands, stories will be told. How you struggle, how you try to define the world. With a sacred name, you are the one chosen to start up the storm. Never give up till you die. Never give up in this life. For every word that you win bright, it's time to become. Never give up on your mind. Hold your weapons, try to fight. For every kingdom that falls and rise, it's time to become legendary.
Hello, governors. Welcome to the 2024 Grand Prix Lower Bracket Finals. I'm your host, Plato Gaming Caster, and content for Rise of Kingdoms. And today we are joined by our fellow caster, Dirty Dan. Glad to be here with you, man.
What's going on, Plato? Glad to be back. And oh man, the craziness of this tournament just continues, and we're getting towards the end here. So man, buckle up, everyone.
Buckle up indeed, because the Grand Prix is the pinnacle of competitive Osiris League, where the best of the best teams from both the international server and the Chinese server get to compete to prove themselves as the best Osiris League teams in the world. Today, we are casting the lower bracket finals, which is a best of 3, meaning that whichever of these teams get to 2 wins first moves on to the finals to verse GY16. The match that we're casting today are 2 Chinese server powerhouses, 732A versus 466W. 732A are coming from a dominant upper bracket run, besting teams such as 60GT and 466S, who are 466W's sister team. They are looking to prove themselves after yesterday's 0-2 loss against GY16 in the upper bracket semifinals. 466W are the inverse of 732A in terms of their path to getting to the lower bracket finals, as they lost their first match of the Grand Prix, but then made a miraculous run through the lower bracket gauntlet through teams such as 21YL and yesterday's 93T, and now are reaching the pinnacle in the finals. So Dirty Dan, my question to you is, will 732A win to run it back against GY16 in the finals, or will 466W finish their lower bracket run with a finals berth?
If it's so tough, right? Like 7-3-2A, as you said, just a really good run through the upper bracket. It started with week one there and taking down a team like 60GT, which kind of threw all of us for a loop. And we're like, oh my gosh, like what just happened? And then even 466W, as we were kind of talking about it before we hopped on, like there was one match, I think it was 748W or the 261K match that they kind of look to start clicking and kind of coming alive. And I'm like, man, I think they're kind of hitting their rhythm at the proper timing. So it's going to be really, really interesting when you're looking at this like on paper. But I'm going to be looking for if 732A can recompose themselves after yesterday. We saw in the match, they really got rattled from that home run play that GY16 hit them with on the obelisk capture. And even in going into the second match, they did not look composed. So I'm looking for if they are going to be able to reobtain that composure and be able to kind of posture themselves up for this match today. It's going to be really interesting to see as well that 466S has practiced a lot with GY16. So that tells me that there's going to be kind of some strategies that are going to be a little bit similar here from 466W and GY16 potentially. But the main thing I'm looking for is 732A. Can they reobtain that composure from yesterday? Because they were definitely rattled.
Dirty Dan, yesterday was not a good day for Obelisk Colts, as there have been... It's funny because this Grand Prix, we haven't really seen... Like, it's been very, very not standard, but rather very, very, I guess, you know, it's been very like contained in terms of the approach, where it was just provisioning. It's low arcs. It's try to hold your structures and out provision your opponents. All of a sudden, yesterday in the semifinals of the lower bracket as well as the upper bracket, all of a sudden all these obelisks start getting captured. So these teams now, as we said, the Grand Prix is the pinnacle of Osiris League. We're getting to the pinnacle of the pinnacle here with only 3 teams left, and these teams have been bringing out everything for these wins here. And we'll have to see if 732A or 466W will be able to come out on top. And man, it's gonna be such an interesting match because 732A. We were talking about earlier that they did beat 466S, which is 466W's sister team here. 466S is actually the team that took the championship out of the two. So the fact that, 732A do have some familiarity, at least with 466 as a kingdom, we'll have to see if that will translate and perhaps give them some confidence to run it back in this finals here as we get into the game. Oh, that was weird. Anyways, we are in the game here. 732A in the top left versus 466W in the bottom right. Yeah. What were you saying, Dirty Dan?
Yeah, it's what another thing I'm going to be looking for too is, again, this is best of 3, so you can take that approach where you can afford a loss. I don't know if 732A is going to want to go out on a limb and maybe try something of that nature, but look for another home run play here, chat and Plotto, in this first match, because again, you can kind of afford that loss, and you can kind of afford to get put on the back foot a little bit, because you're not done, right? It's best of 3. So in this first match specifically, I am going to be looking for a home run play, whether that's to start the match on an obelisk play, or maybe on that first mid arc rotation that there's going to be a play on the obelisk or master strategist, or just look for some kind of home run play in this first match specifically.
When I was casting yesterday, I was clicking on the city powers and realized that they're all 466 million power. Now versing 466, 732A, they, as you said, they lost 2 matches yesterday. 466W winning in a dominant fashion. So there's definitely a lot of momentum going to 466W's side. But 732A has been one of the surprises this tournament, and if there's a team that could turn it around, 732A might be able to do it, as this is the first game of a best of 3, meaning that this can go up to 3 games if both teams even up the score going into game 3. This is going to be the first time that I've personally casted a best of 3 in this Grand Prix. You casted one yesterday. And this is going to be the second best of 3 actually for 466W. Or no, for 732A rather.
Yeah, and that in itself is a challenge, right? Like, again, I always try to just like humanize what's going on, right? There's people on the other side of these screens. Like, it takes a lot of composure and mental bandwidth, and like to go through the gauntlet that they went through yesterday, and then to have to just get some sleep. They had the day to prepare today, and then now they're right back in it in another best of 3. That could take a toll, right? Yeah. So I'm looking for them again. The main thing right now is for them to stay composed, and then it's gonna we're gonna see how things play out if they can keep that bandwidth together as these matches progress.
As the match has started here, looks like a double energetic. Let's see where they place these sentries. 466W doing the typical outside of the gate Chinese sentry here. Chinese server sentry special. No sentry. Oh, it is a mirrored sentry from 732A. So, man, it is going to be really interesting to see if this will be standard play or if we'll see some obelisk plays that we've seen yesterday from these two teams. I will say, when I look at 466W's marches and see more marches going up towards that top side obelisk, it's giving me a little bit of flashbacks from yesterday.
Oh, no.
Although it does look like they do have more marches going down to the south here. It's looking a little bit thicker in terms of their top side pressure, but not as crazy as yesterday. So I expect some pretty standard play, at least from the opening here.
And it's really tough too, because as your 732A seeing that come through, like it could also just be like a mask, right? It can also just be like, oh, they're indexing a lot higher on this desert altar. They're going to make a bigger approach on it. But yeah, I mean, I think we're a few moments away from seeing when that potential sneaky tactics would be coming in. So we'll have to see if it comes through. But yeah, you don't know, right? Like, you really don't know. They saw the amount of troops coming through with the sentry, but now that's it. Now they're flying blind, and man, if you're 732A, it's got to be in your head, right? Like that. I think that play yesterday had to have affected them, and they're gonna be cautious and wary of it now.
Yeah, I think this is gonna be pretty standard play from both sides here. There's probably not gonna be a sneaky obelisk capture. Yesterday, though, when Redline and I were casting, we just saw pretty much 80% of the dots from 466W go to that top side obelisk, and we're like, uh-oh, that's a play. This time, looking a lot more even here in terms of the spread. So, and the thing is, that play is a home run play, where if you've done it before, the enemy teams, the opponents, have seen that. And they could prep for it, they could prepare for it. So yeah, not too sure if that would have worked against 732A regardless, as we start to see these marches now start to get to the touch points in front of these desert altars and in front of these outer lanes in the sky altar and shrine of lives here.
Yeah, and then a nice contingent of 466W troops in the middle, in that middle lane too, on both sides of the wall. So that might be something to keep an eye out for as well, because there's a hefty amount of troops there.
There is, and 732A do have vision on these troops, so they know that there is a lot of troops in this middle here. Now, what does that indicate? That indicates that they're probably going to give up the desert altar assault here, and it looks like they already called off the desert altar assault. Some marches now rotating to defend their own sky altar. There is a ton of marches, so they could see all of these marches coming out from 732A. Yeah. There's actually a lot of marches out in this outer lane here, so there could be some threats to the sky altar. Meanwhile, the initial murder balls have commenced. This murder ball will probably lose for 466W. A little bit outnumbered. If we go ahead and go to the bottom side Desert Altar, it looks to be a very similar situation where usually you see a big Desert Altar scrap. This time, looking to be thwarted, and marches are being reallocated to either the center of the map or the outer lane.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I think at its core too, like, yeah, 732A kind of got, you know, they got handed the business yesterday. That playbook got opened up on them, but let's not forget that this team is very good at structure focus, right? So they're a very good occupation team, and I think we're seeing that here on a play like this outside lane, especially, and we talked about it at nauseum through the Osiris League run in the international server, that these outside lane plays before the first arc are exceptionally valuable, because it's just a farther walk for the enemy.
yeah, if you want to move your enemies as far away from middle as possible, take the Sky Altar, because this is the outskirts of the map. It's pretty much like a 2-minute walk from middle. As the Sky Altar looks like they will get a Garrett. Oh, 732A actually getting first tap.
Wow.
Putting out an emoji saying, hey, were you looking for this? Is this what you're looking for? Well, we have it. The Sky Altar. In the meanwhile, Desert Altar was first tapped by 466W, but quickly retaken by 732A. So 732A, at least in the beginning here, having control of 3 altars. Now the question is, will they be able to hold the Sky Altar for those 3 minutes to get first capture points? Or will 466W commit resources here? There are quite a couple of 732A marches out here though, Dirty Dan.
Yeah, 732A with a really nice presence, and then we see that whenever a team takes an advanced structure, that they like to posture up a murder ball right in front. So I would expect that this is going to take a few waves for 466W to kind of clear those troops out, and that might give them first occupation potentially.
By the way, if we take a look at the marches that were middle, it looks like they're disrupting the reinforcements from 732A. They indexed like maybe like 2-3 players, 15 marches, walked through middle, and now that they're disrupting some of these reigns.
Interesting play. We're gonna see if that pays off going into this first mid arc fight. But even not first mid, I mean, yeah, that's great play to start limiting the amount of troops that can make it back cleanly for 732A. That's a nice play from 466W.
I think it's a nice play if they're able to retake their structures and stabilize. If they're able to retake this Sky Altar and retake their, I guess it's not a retake because they never took it in the first place. If they're able to take control of the structures, their home structures here, then it would be a good play. But with 1 minute to go on the Sky Altar, this is going to be the timer that we're looking for. They got a CPO-A rally on the Sky Altar with the Tariq, so it's going to be doing quite a bit of damage. Does 732A have the reinforcements here? I don't think they do. It is getting chunked down as is. There is a swarm coming from 466W. The reinforcement, the triple lines running as fast as possible. 10 seconds to go before they get to the Sky Altar, but 10 seconds may be too late. Some last minute reinforcements here from 732A. But it looks like 466W able to take back their Sky Altar, deny the first capture points, and now that everything's even, I think, you know, it is going to be a very interesting first mid fight, because you could see that some of these marches coming out from 732A are getting delayed and denied from 466W, and that the fact that they're using a Saladin out in the open field, the marches have disappeared. Okay, so Dirty Dan, the marches have disappeared from the map. The marches that were harassing the 732A marches going out have disappeared. And what that indicates to me is there is a tech where if you leave the game, another player can instantly join.
Yes.
Then they'll be in the home. They'll be in their home area so that they could refresh faster. So instead of sad facing their marches, waiting a minute and a half to go all the way back and start rotating middle, They made that player leave, made another player join, and now the new player that joined can now go out and save about a minute 30 on refreshes. So
Yeah.
466W doing some very, very complicated strategies here. Some high level game mechanic usage there.
Very technical. I think that's one of the tips that I've seen in Lambo's arc tips video. If chat, you guys want to check that out, free plug for Lambo. Love you, bud.
There you go, a free plug for Lambo. As there is 3 minutes here in this Temple of Osiris area. There's 3 minutes left until the arc spawns, and it does look like both teams are going to be rotating middle here. With 7328, even though they were a little bit delayed, they will not be denied, as they do have quite a couple marches here. Dirty Dan, what do you expect to see from this first mid fight?
I'm already like getting nervous for 732A, just because like they look, I don't think it's gonna happen again, but it's in their mind, right? It's in their mind, and I think that is enough to affect them a little bit in terms of what they're gonna be doing. So they're going to be vigilant. They're going to be extremely vigilant on this first mid arc. They're going to have eyes everywhere to make sure that something like yesterday isn't going to happen again. One thing that we've seen multiple times from 732A on the first mid arc fight is as a to the death call. So I would be looking for that, and potentially a response from 466W with a Heaven's Grace, or maybe even just kind of like splitting off what we saw yesterday from GY16, just pulling off of that engagement entirely. So I would be looking for a to the death from 732A here.
I will say 7328 flipping the Sky Altar again. There's still no first occupation points in the Sky Altar for 466W. So small victories there. But for those that did not watch the series yesterday, Dan, what happened to 732A and what Obelisk player are you referring to?
Yeah, so 732A posturing up very much like we see here. They popped it to the death engagement. GY16 then pulls off of that, and they had a contingent of troops on the top side going for what it looked like a desert altar play, which is kind of normal because a lot of these Chinese server teams really favor occupation. They bypass the desert altar, go for the obelisk, snipe it, and then they get like 6 cities in, which totally disrupted the amount of players that 732A was able to get up. So something that they're going to stay vigilant on, and there's the to the death call.
And it does look like instead of that, they are going for a full mid fight here. To the death used. We have to the death sneaky tactics versus dust up sneaky tactics Heaven's Grace. So it's Heaven's Grace dust up versus to the death. And not gonna lie, it looks, if we look at the sad face meter, it looks actually pretty even.
Yeah.
In normal mode, it looked pretty 466W favored. In dot mode, it still looks 466W favored. Now that we're seeing all these sad faces come out,
Yeah.
732A losing this first initial mid fights.
That's huge. That's huge. I think that's the pains of using this to the death in the beginning. Right now your hand is shown, and again, it's a traditional thing that they're kind of openly using, and people kind of know this. But yeah, I mean, if you can't capitalize on that first to the death, I feel like it's a huge value loss.
It's a huge value loss, but what also is a huge value loss is the fact that you committed to middle, but they did at least flip some of these structures. They flipped the desert altar, they flipped the sky altar, but it won't be enough to make up for losing that first arc against 466W. 466W in the driver's seats in this match currently.
Yeah, 466W doing a nice job in that middle. Again, a lot of this comes down to skill usage too, right? Like, can you counter with the proper skills, and are you using the skills at the right time? And I think 466W doing a good job there. Denying that to the death, that classic opening from 732A. And yeah, they have some structures now, but we have to see how 732A responds with kind of now being down in the score a little bit here.
732A up in true score, currently up by 5.6 to 4.6, up by 1K. But with the arc in hand for 466W, they will be, which is worth 3k, when they capture this arc, they will be up by about 2,000 points, which is not insurmountable, but it is a great start, especially with the 2 to death usage as you brought out. And this is what we've been seeing more and more. 2 to death as a skill doesn't mean that you're going to instantly win mid-fight. You still have to micro your marches. You still have, you know, to win that mid-fight mechanically and with numbers. And in all honesty, to the death in a very big mid-fight where both teams commit is actually less valuable because it only impacts 30 marches. If you have more than 30 marches in mid, it actually negates and lessens the effect of to the death, because there are going to be some of your marches that are not buffed by that. And I will say they use 2 skills that only affect 30 marches. Sneaky Tactics and to the death only affect 30 marches, versus Dust Up and Heaven's Grace, where that impacts, in fact, the whole map. So perhaps that skill usage proving to be the reason as to why 732A lost that mid-fight.
Yeah, it's... I'm curious to see if we start shying away from to the death a little bit here. Like, I think it's a nice, like, card to have for some of these matches, but like, I don't know, we're just seeing the value kind of fall off a little bit more and more from the to the death, because as you alluded to, it's only 30 marches that it's affecting, and when you're sending the house on the mid arc fight, you know, it's just not enough. There's so many more troops that aren't getting that buff, and like, to the point of it's only 30 players, and then when you add in the microing, like, you don't even know how good the players who are actually getting the buff are microing, right? Like, if a player AFKs for some reason, like maybe a loss of connection, like it's huge. It's huge, and you can't control who's getting the buff. So yeah, I'm curious to see if we see a little bit of a fall off from the to the death usage that used to be such a popular skill.
Yeah, it is going to be really interesting. 732A in the back foot in this match. The arc hasn't been captured, and the score is getting closer and closer and closer between these two teams. I think it's because 466W was finally able to get first occupation of their Sky Altar about 40 minutes into the map here. So initially, this is looking very, very 466W favored. Dirty Dan, give us your predictions. Look into your crystal ball. What is the play for 732A, and how do they get back into this?
Yeah, I think they definitely, obviously, you look, home structures is the name of the game. Like, you have to go and start focusing on your home structures. I think the provisions is definitely going to be out there, and something that they're going to be focusing on, that they've proven, as we saw in that match against 60GT, that they can put up 6,000-7,000 points on you through provisions. So yeah, you have to keep that in mind too, right? With the provisions that could potentially be out at hand, that'll kind of negate in their minds a little bit this first arc score. So I think the main thing after that, after all that's said and done, they have to go in and win that next arc. Like, the next arc is going to be a must win for them.
But without to the death, hopefully they have other skills on the bar that could help them out. I will say there was no hard push usage by 732A, which when I casted 732A marches, usually after the mid fight they use hard push, try to flip some of these structures. No hard push for them this time. A difference in strategy compared to the last matches that I've casted. And talk about provisioners, I think I saw 7 to 8 provisioners out from 732A. So, you know, doing the typical provisioner strat, trying to make sure that, hey, just because we lost this first arc doesn't mean we'll lose the game. We'll make it back up with provisioners. And 466W, I don't really see the same amount of provisioning. They are provisioning. They have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, perhaps they do have the same amounts. But
close-ish, close enough. It's close enough. It's close enough to just mitigate, right? And I think that's like the main thing that these, like, some of these teams that have lost, like 748W, like it like, and I even asked them, I'm like, do you guys plan to take somewhat of this provisioning approach? And they said no. And like, I think at the very least, you just have to kind of match, right? You don't have to send out 13, 14, 15. Just send out a couple farmers and just try to mitigate a little bit from the points that you know that the other team is trying to get on their end.
Yeah. Because You know, there's a very interesting approach in terms of mindset when it comes to Grand Prix, right? There's a point where, you just try to generate as many points as possible. But there's also a point or a thought where actually all we need to do is generate more points than our opponents. And one of the things about provisioning is it's not about getting the edge, it's about nullifying your opponent's edge. And instead of trying and figuring out ways to get more points, it's about how to nullify the amount of points that your opponents get with provisioning. So if you have a couple provisioners out there yourself, you know, even if you get 1k 2k points, that's going to be a better margin than if you didn't provision at all, which we've seen a lot of good teams in this Grand Prix, their only fault was not provisioning. So the fact that both teams are provisioning, the fact that both teams have been trading their structures back and forth, the Desert Altar was taken at around the same time. Only difference is 7328 was able to take back the Desert Altar and at a reasonable clip. This Desert Altar 4466W still under control of 7328. Arc was captured about a minute ago, by the way, Dirty Dan. So this is going to be the true score going into this mid fight, about a 2.6k lead. And this is still anyone's game.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting too for 466W to cash that as early as they did. So they have to be feeling confident right now. I think potentially just with the skill usage coming into play here for the next mid arc fight, and they're definitely feeling confident. And I just want to key back in on that hard push. We were calling that out yesterday too, because they had it on their bar, but they weren't using it as much. And I think that they learned that maybe against these higher level teams, potentially, not to say that 60GT isn't a high level team, but yeah, I don't think that that's on their bar this time. Like, because yesterday they weren't able to use it enough, and I think that it just sitting on the bar for them was just kind of like, you know, taking up a slot with a skill that they could have used. But we have to see if they actually have some better skills on the board, because we saw in that first arc fight that skills kind of made the difference there.
I believe they did use hard push against the likes of here. I think they did use it against 466S. So it is pretty interesting that they chose to deviate away from it. I mean, I'm sure both of these teams have been practicing quite a bit, so you know they would know better than me. But yeah, it'll be really, really interesting to see this second mid fight, because we saw both teams commit to it. 466W getting the upper hand. Is that an anomaly, or is that the trend of the series? The second arc fight here will determine a lot if 7328 decide to go for it.
Yeah, and it's kind of turning into one of those matches where like it looks like we might get high arc scoring, so that's definitely one thing to look out for. I'm looking here to Plato. They actually 7328 did use hard push all the way through the tournament up until yesterday in that first loss to GY16, and then they switched up the skill usage. So they removed hard push, they added Heaven's Grace. So 7328 in total yesterday in the last match: Energetic to the Death, Sneaky Tactics, Heaven's Grace, Dust Up, and Master Strategy on the board for them. So yeah, they have the skills on the board to make a difference in the middle. It's just about if they're going to be able to use them properly.
Yeah, we will have to see. And that question will be answered in about 4 minutes 20 seconds here. What skill do you think? What's your favorite mid skill usage? If you had 10 points, what would the combination of skills be for your best chance to win a mid fight, Dirty Dan? There's a lot of good skills out there that we've seen used.
I really like Bogdown. I feel like Bogdown has to be on everyone's list, because that's the counter to Heaven's Grace, right? And we see Heaven's Grace being used quite a lot. I think I would have Heaven's Grace somewhere on my board as well. And I'm probably gonna muff on the skill points here, but yeah, Heaven's Grace would definitely be there. Bogdown, Dust Up. Master Strategy, I think, is something that you always need to have just in case, right? Because we've seen how effective over and over that a Master Strategy play can have, and oftentimes too, it's not like a planned thing. It's like, hey, we see an opportunity here and let's use it. And we've seen the master strategy home runs hit in some really nice ways this tournament.
Yeah, it is going to be really interesting. We've seen some really interesting master strategies played from 93T in the past, from, you know, just stealing arcs, perhaps. This is a very interesting initial approach, though.
Yeah.
Both, they have a couple scouting marches. These are cavalry marches, so just trying to see what's going on from 732A, what they're doing. They see a couple 732A marches, so they probably know that 732A wants to, or under the impressions that 732A wants to approach and contest the second arc. But I will say 466W do have the first rotation here, and it looks like they do have quite a couple of marches rotating straight to this middle fight, so it might be another straight up contest from these two teams.
Yeah, I think that's definitely telling, especially when you just saw troops defending their home desert altar peeling off on that bottom side and then just saying, hey, we need to go to mid. We'll let them take this for now. So
that is actually very interesting. I don't think the plan was to drop the desert altar, to be honest. I feel like they thought that they had enough, but not able to reinforce it in time. There was a good flip from the desert altar, and the sky altar, they're in the outer lane. They went over to the dunes. They went over to the caravans, the camels, to sneak attack this desert altar, or the sky altar rather. So in my opinion, it looks like 732A is doing what we see in the international server a little bit, this hybrid style, where they're going to be contesting structures, they're going to be flipping these structures, specifically the altars, so that they could deny as much point gain as possible, while also using a sneaky tactics in the middle here to try to deny a free capture of the arc. There's a minute 15 left, and they are getting pushed out. I expect to see a sneaky tactics in a little bit here, Dirty Dan.
Yeah, it's a nice play from 732A, just giving 466W a little bit of a different look here. Which again, I think is nice. You want to keep both these teams are so polished, right? You kind of want to just do enough to keep them on their toes as this mid fight is turning into chaos.
This is a mid chase right here. It's not even a mid fight, where the two murder balls of 732A split from one side to the other side, and now 466W trying to answer. About an even split from both teams here, so a very interesting shot calling.
Yeah, I think this is a building approach. If you look on the map, there's 4 altars in hand for 732A, and then when you account for the provisioners, and the score can run up rather quickly, especially when you have 4 altars in hand and all the provisioners on top of that. So kind of, again, like you said, taking that hybrid approach, but I think that this was definitely a little bit of a planned thing here, where they wanted to go and take these four altars.
Yeah, they want to take the 4 altars, and 4 altars is a very, very strong play. The question is, how long can they hold the 4 altars? If they're able to hold it for quite some time, this will be definitely worth. But if it is a quick rotation into stabilization from 466W, then giving up the second arc for practically free will not be the play, and will put them more and more behind. Let's keep a look at their lead. They're up by 2.4k. The points per minute is going to start generating here. The Desert Altar and the Sky Altar still have not started generating points for 732A. Now the marches that are middle, are they going to be healthy enough? And I think the answer is yes, to contest this Desert Altar. And that's going to be really, really tough for 732A, because if this Desert Altar gets taken rather fast, then that play for the buildings, even though it was a good attempt, will not pay out. So how long do you think they have to hold these altars for, Dirty Dan, for it to be worth it to give up an arc? Each altar is worth 150 points per minute. They're taking away 150 points, so now it's about 300 points differential between like every minute, where you're taking away 300 points from your opponents, you're gaining 300 points yourself. So what would that be? Perhaps like 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes?
Thinking around that realm, yeah. Just my gut kind of telling me you want to hold those for about 5. But I mean, when we in this high level play that we've seen. I don't think that really happens too much on advanced structures. So I would say we can maybe expect them to hold it for maybe like a minute or two, but usually these things kind of get taken back relatively quickly.
Yeah, this Desert Ultra already under heavy assaults, perhaps actually 6 to 7, because the first 2 minutes that you capture it, you're not actually generating points, you're just denying the points. So
true.
I mean, I'm sure someone could do the mental math. I don't know why I brought it up on stream while casting after the first day of daylight savings, by the way.
Yeah.
If we're a bit more tired than usual, just blame daylight savings. But anyways, appreciate everyone for coming through regardless. By the way, if you enjoy the Grand Prix content, be sure to subscribe to the official Rise of Kingdoms channel right here, because this is only game 1. There will be a game 2 and a potential game 3 leading into the finals next week. So you do not want to miss the pinnacle of the Grand Prix, as the Desert Ultra was captured rather fast, perhaps like a 2-minute hold there. So the Desert Ultra was captured. They need to hold the Sky Ultra then, and they also have to hold their own Desert Ultra. The Desert Ultra of their Desert Ultra was actually flipped as well. So
that's not good.
That is not going to be a good sign from 732A. In all honesty, I mean, they lost the first mid fight, so they got what they could. They traded on the map, but the fact that they're losing these structures, they just can't. Did they just? Oh no, there you go. The fact that they're losing these structures, while going a structure focus and giving up the mid is going to be really, really detrimental. Because, I mean, even if they even up the score here, there'll be 3.5k in terms of arc score, and currently they're still down by about 1.3k. So about a 4k lead for 466W, 4.8k lead if we count the arc, and this is still gonna be going more closer and closer to 732A's side, because they do still have, the Sky Ultra. They have control of their own Desert Ultra, but the Sky Ultra now under assault. I think 466W have actually stabilized the game quite nicely here.
Yeah, and they did so rather quickly too, right? And we talk about, those outside lanes and how long it kind of takes to rotate over, but they were able to respond rather quickly on the Sky Ultra. It took a little bit longer than that bottom side Desert Ultra, but I would expect that this is going to go back into the hands of 466W relatively quickly.
Is it?
Actually, no, yeah, good call. The blue is starting to clear that open field, so they 732As, it might actually get a little bit of a longer hold on this than expected.
And that's going to be an extra minute. So every single time you throw it a rally, you deny it for an extra minute here. As the Sky Ultra here has been, the attack has been dispelled. But it does look like instead they're attacking the Desert Ultra. So seeing the open field around the Sky Ultra, they're like, all right, let's just go to the DA. Hopefully they'll, not reinforce their Desert Ultra. It is wait, is that a Justinian Khan?
Oh gosh, what the heck?
Wow, I'm curious as to why Justinian Khan open field. But there is a CPOA with Tariq as well. I mean, it worked. So Justinian Khan open field.
Oh man,
is valid.
I'm gonna get a lot of flack for that one. I was a big Genghis Khan believer and trying to revitalize him, and I think in Grand Prix, when you have the pool of commanders that you have, he's probably not the commander that you have. Playing behind secondary, there's definitely some better options.
I actually don't even know what Genghis Khan does. Like I got into the game. By the time I got into the game, people were really they kind of knew the meta. They're like, Edward sucks unless you're a rally. Genghis Khan never invests. I'm like, all right, I'll never invest. Yeah. I don't even know the skills for Genghis Khan.
He's a damage dealer. That's pretty much it. And his expertise is like a 30% chance to proc the active skill again, but you have Joan, which gives you that every other turn for free. So it's not a 30% chance. So yeah, his fall off has been relatively hard. RIP to the fluffy man.
To the floof. As I remember when Joan of Arc came out, Joan of Arc Prime, people were like, is this the comeback of Genghis Khan? Dennis Khan of Genghis Khan, because does the expertise of Genghis Khan work with the expertise of Jonah, or fourth skill of Joan of Arc, whatever. So
yeah.
But did not come to fruition. But you know, interesting to see commander diversity in a game, in a match where everyone has the same amount of commanders, same amount of gear, same amount of troops.
And I mean, these are the best of the best too, so maybe they do know something that we don't know. I mean, yesterday I was seeing YSS primary and garrisons as opposed to the Heraclius that we had been seeing, and I'm like, what do they know that I don't know? I thought Heraclius primary was better. So these guys are
crazy single target damage. Justinian gives him the good tankiness, so he's good for single target swarming. So there you go. That's a play for them. And you know, cavalry is so important in Arc of Osiris.
Yeah.
So perhaps that's like the third, fourth, even fifth march of cavalry. Cavalry, the one troop type where you could probably run 5 marches and not troll. So
yeah, he does give you that little bit of the march speed bonus too. I would opt personally for like a Chandra, because Chandra gives you the debuff onto the structure, but you're gonna lose out. He doesn't have a generic march speed like Genghis Khan, but personally I would opt for a Chandra to try and debuff the structure.
Dirty Dan's the cavalry guy, so I'm gonna defer to him. Dirty Dan running 5 cavalry marches. Do you still run 5 cavalry marches? Is that
4?
Okay,
well, maybe a new cav release I can get to 5. We'll see.
Running the 4 cavalry marches as we get back into the game here. 4 minutes before Arc spawns. A little bit of banter, seeing a Genghis Khan. But the Sky Altar has been flipping back and forth. The Desert Altar has been flipping back and forth. This game has not been flipping back and forth because 466W have had control of the middle fights here. So the question is, Dirty Dan, how can 732A win a mid fight?
Again, I think it's coming down to skill usage. I don't know if they have the proper things on their bar. Like, I don't know if they were waiting for maybe a potential master strategist that last arc fight. I think we only saw each team use dust up. Like, I think maybe both were looking for a master strategist play, but again, I feel like the skill usage here, and it's hard to execute the skills on the, like, I guess like the formation that they had going into that last arc fight, right? Because they weren't kind of committed. They kind of split off, and then they kind of created this chaos because they were going for structures. But their skill usage needs to crisp up a little bit here, because I think that even in yesterday's match against GY16, they were getting outskilled in the middle, and I think that's going to be a huge factor going into this. I think this is a critical arc for them. They have to win this one, otherwise it's going to slip away from them.
Is this a Justinian Bertrand rally? It is.
Yes. Yeah. Wow. I have been seeing a little bit of that as well in this Grand Prix. Yeah. I think opting for that little bit of tankiness, I guess. But yeah, another interesting call.
Yeah, that's really cool to see these. I mean, it wasn't successful, but it was used. So it's really interesting to see all these commanders come out, all these cav commanders in particular, just because of how impactful the movement speed in Arc of Osiris is. As we talk about this mid fight, this is going to be an all-in. This has to be an all-in from 732A. They probably know that there are provisioners coming in from 466W. They can't just win off and give another arc, because they're down right now by about 3.9k. This arc worth 4k. This is going to be the third arc here. So if you give away another 4k points, it's pretty much going to be the game here for 466W in this game 1. So having to contest here, it's going to be really interesting to see what they do and how they decide to play this mid fight differently from how they've played the other mid fights. But it is going to be a full contest. Every single dot, except for these 2 dots walking to the Shrine of Life, which is, you know, a rally. It is a Nevsky with a Justinian.
And that's not a terrible play. That's 5% health that 466W won't have in the middle if they are able to take that. So that's not a terrible play here from 732A. It's actually kind of a low-key, really nice play if that can pull off, which it looks like it probably will. So 466W going into this arc fight with 5% less health on their troops.
We'll have to see if that'll make the difference, if that'll be the difference maker. And you can just see a bunch of rallies just 1v1ing these structures here. Oh, this This Sky Altar might actually be under threat, but that's how you know everyone's going middle. 7-3-2-8 using sneaky tactics. The marches in the back here. These are double C. This is an arc carrier with a bunch of damage marches. Perhaps trying to sneakily surround the temple and the marches around the temple here from 466W. The arc is about to spawn in 20 seconds and both teams are staring at each other. 466W having the advantage in terms of positioning, being right on top of the Temple of Osiris. The murder ball getting super close. They did start engaging 466W, also using sneaky tactics. This time on top of the murder ball to try to take this fight and to the death. So this is the same skills used by 7-3-2 in the first arc. They have sneaky tactics to the death as well as a dust up earlier. And now 466W have a clean pull. They should also have the numbers advantage here because of the sneaky tactics marches of 7-3-2-A not going into the murder ball, opting into walking to the back line here. It's so interesting the fact that they sacked the murder ball to try to attack this arc. They didn't use any skills, so perhaps it's a master strategies.
Yep, there we go. There we go. I'm like, they're not using skills. Where are they holding all these points for? And there it is, a master strategy call from 7-3-2-A. Very nicely done.
Now, is this teleporting out or is this teleporting people in? I think it might be teleporting people in. Oh, they were trying to steal it with a teleport out. They were not successful though. What? Oh, that was 1 second away. That was 1 second away with a master strategist.
That hurts.
That hurts a ton, but that was such a good attempt. The timing was just a little bit off though. Sneaky tactics, making your marches invisible, take down the arc carrier, try to steal the arc. That is a lot of timing, a lot of pressure. And they were not able to get that timing correct. In fact, I feel like they did get the timing correct. It's just 466W getting to tap that arc first.
Yep.
Won them this game. It was a matter of nanoseconds that won 466W this arc and potentially the game. They are currently up by about 3.8k. And we were talking about a mid play. That's not the mid play that I was personally expecting. An attempted arc steal after a full commit. I'm curious as to why they went mid in the first place then. If you're only going to be using 30 marches, perhaps you could have just tried to do that play with only the sneaky tactics and master strategies. Try to pressure your altars. Either way though, it is a huge win for 466W. Taking the driver's seat here in the first game of a best of 3.
Yeah, it definitely interesting for sure. And I don't know, I'm just like 7-3-2-A is kind of trying to do like all these like little unique looks, right? Second arc, they kind of go for the occupation. Third look, they're going for a master strategy play. And I'm just like, is there a reason why we're going for all this like trickery? Like, why don't we just go straight up and
the home run play?
Yeah, like I I understand like you can afford the loss, right? But like you tried these couple things and I'm just curious of like if is the skill not there for just a straight up, you know, mid brawl arc fight? It's very, very curious to me as to why all these different looks, which now is ultimately going to kind of put them down if they're unable to snag this arc as they're trying to kind of hijack it here. But the interesting that this does too, Plato, is if this does end up in 466W's pocket and they cash this arc, this match is pretty much over unless 7-3-2-8 pulls the best provisioning out of their hat ever. But this puts 466W in the driver's seat. They'll go up 1-0, and now I would look for a home run play from 466W in the next match, especially with the way that they performed. They've kind of had the answer for 7-3-2-A in all aspects of the game. from what I've seen at least. And if I'm forced to 6W going into the next match, up 1-0, I'm going for a home run play for sure.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting development in this best of 3. 466W looks like they're trying to hold this arc. They don't want to capture it, even though it is being contested by Huakibing with Belisarius Prime. So the arc is safely in their hands. And we were talking about it, like 732A is a great provisioning team, but even at their best, they only provision about 7k. And we were talking about 466W also provisioning themselves, so it won't be a clean 7k, it'll be a contested 7k in terms of provisions.
Yep.
So the fact that the arc was captured, it was such a risky play to do that play, because, like, for example, I feel like the same effect might have been possible just sending the 30 marches with sneaky tactics in the middle and then trying to steal it with master strategies. I feel like the murder ball there actually didn't affect anything really.
Yeah, there was no value there where you, like, to your point, like, you could just use those marches
and the desert altar, flip the sky altar, try to pressure the building game, make 466W over rotate and leave middle. But perhaps 466W, they just knew that last arc was a must win, was a must capture, so they would have sent marches and stayed middle regardless. But I mean, it was a great attempt, and we'll have to see if they'll run it back again for the next game here, because, man, in all honesty, this game has been very, very dominant from 466W, answering all of the plays from 732A. 732A have had a little bit of a building advantage if we go ahead and look at occupation score. In terms of middle, 466W have been miles ahead in terms of their play, winning that first arc. Second arc was conceded by 732A, and that third arc, it was a home run play from 732A. And as to your point, you were talking about how that wasn't exactly necessary when you committed all of your marches middle and perhaps could have went for that straight up mid fight.
Yeah, and then also too, now, like, the question for me is, like, what's that last skill on the board that you haven't used the entire match? Like, again, it's coming down to, in my opinion, it's skill usage. Like, I just don't see, like, just from yesterday and today, 732A on the skill usage has not been where it needs to be in this, like, semi-final position. You know, like, you're the second or third best team left in this tournament now, but the skill game is not showing me that. So, like, I'm curious as to what that last skill is that they haven't used at all. We can assume that 466W, most likely that's probably a master strategist that they have in their pocket. And it's honestly, as you said, 466W is performing exceptionally well.
Oh, it is hard push. It's hard push.
And like, there you go. Like, there's, like, and to your point that you made before, why aren't we using this, like, during your structure fights, during the middle of the match? Like, it's just poor skill usage from 732A that, in my opinion, is kind of succumbing them to these losses.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a rough first match here for 732A, a dominant first match here for 466W, and all this, it was still a pretty even game. All things considered, they're gonna be up by about 8k in terms of true score. The provisions probably making this a 6k game at the end of the day, but 732A, like, what do you do going into game 2? Like, what's the game plan?
It's going to be tough, right? Because again, that home run play is going to be so open for 466W. So again, we were kind of talking about it yesterday going into the second match against GY16 of, like, that play was now stuck in their head and they have to honor and respect that play, especially being down 1-0. So they, again, I think and that was it the second arc fight or the third one where they had to stay vigilant. I think they're gonna have to stay vigilant the entire match because they can get crept up on behind, and a home run play is definitely relevant. I think they need to simplify things. I think they're trying to do a little bit too much, which I also saw a little bit yesterday. I think Brian made the point there. They're just trying to do a little bit too much. I think just get into a cleaner game plan and just a little bit more straightforward. And I think they're going to see better returns.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what... I mean, the thing is, 732A, I feel like they got to go back to the game plan, but their game plan requires them to win the first mid-fight.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we saw against 60 GT. They're able to win that first mid-fight and from there take control of the game via provisioning, via occupation. But if you continue to give these arcs, especially the first arc, where this is a 3-arc game, the arc was captured, by the way. In a 3-arc game, the more arcs that are captured, the less it means that there's more overall points in the match, right? So that makes provisioning and occupation worth less overall in terms of the grand point values.
Yeah.
So if you don't win that first arc and you try to win via provisions and holding your own structures, the arcs will probably outweigh your overall provision score. As you can see, there's 10.5k points from arc score with 3 arcs captured. So they want to make it a 2-arc game, but the question is, can they do so? Can they win a mid-fight? The answer to this game is no. What can they do to make the answer yes in the games to come? Yeah,
I'm gonna go back to skill usage on it. I think you have to maybe keep to the death on the board, but like you gotta reevaluate the skills going into this next fight and maybe like unload the house on them on the first one. Like you throw your dust up, throw your Heaven's Grace, throw the bog down. I don't know if that's enough points there, but you know what I mean. Like to the death clearly isn't working, and that first play clearly isn't working. So switch up the skills a little bit. Please get rid of hard push, because you're not using that the entire match. You didn't use it for the first 50 minutes, so please get that off the board. And then a little bit cleaner skill usage in the middle. And I think they're going to be in a good position. And I think you may have also made a good point that Force 6W kind of knew that this is what 732A wanted to do, and it kind of clicked and made sense to me of why Force 6W kind of chose to cash in some of the arcs a little bit quicker than maybe I expected. And it's a great point to make that when you put more points into a match, this provisioning strategy becomes a little less valuable. So I think Force 6W doing the proper homework and preparing properly to counteract the play or the strategy as a whole that 732A likes to enact.
Force 6W have been ramping up this tournament. We were talking about it in the beginning here, in the opening. They lost their first match. They lost their first match of the Grand Prix. Ever since then, in the lower bracket, have been making it over and over and over and over and over. And now that we're in round 6, the finals of the lower bracket, trying to make it back up to the overall finals. I mean, 466W looking really, really strong. They showed that they could play non-standard. They could play the cheese strats. They could play, take the obelisk and win the game off of that against 93T yesterday. But they showed today in this first game that even if they play standard, they are still a very, very strong team and a team to be reckoned with. So, in all honesty, this is going to be a tough task for 732A. As you're talking about the next game, they might be planning for, let's try to beat them with that. Let's try to outstandard them. All of a sudden, 466W take another obelisk, and it's over. So yeah, it's gonna be the mind games. Is gonna be super interesting to see how both of the teams approach game 2 after the results of game 1.
Definitely, and if I'm 466W, you have to know that, and you have to realize that, and you have to take advantage of it, right? I think you do maybe give them a different look, right? So like as we talked about on the opening, where we saw in the match yesterday with Force 6W sending about 80% of their marches into one lane, like maybe you do something like that and but okay, we're not going to do that, just really get 732A, put them on the heels without even doing anything really besides just giving them a different look. So 466W's totally in the driver's seat going into this next match. And 732A has a tough task. And again, it's going to come down to that composure of some of these shot callers. If they can really stay composed and look to answer whatever 466W has ready for them.
To answer indeed. And, you know, this is going to be really interesting to see what they do.
And 466W, I mean, I'm just like looking back on the matches, and as you alluded to, they can kind of do a little bit of everything, and I wouldn't put it against them to, you know, maybe even take a building approach next time either. They've been proven to put up around 7K points themselves, and I think most of their matches winning occupation score. So, you know, maybe they don't go for the home run, and maybe they just, you know, stay true especially with how dominant they've been. So yeah, 466W has just been on a really nice run, things clicking at the right time. And I think also having 466S to kind of practice with, get feedback in, and just there's so much benefits that come from having a second ARC team within the same kingdom. And we see that even in our own Osiris League, in the international servers, on those teams that have another team within their kingdom that they can practice with on a consistent basis are usually the teams that you know, push through into these tournaments a little bit deeper.
Yeah, it'll be, I mean, play standard, play dirty, whatever it is 466W can do. You know, playing the early game, playing the late game, building middle, showing the versatility of their game plans for 466W, I think is going to be the name of the game for them against 732A. And 732A, so far as of now, have not shown that they could play for these arcs. So that's going to be the question going into the series. Can 732A adjust, or will 466W run away with it? And this is the first game of best of 3, so there is going to be a game 2. If 732A wins game 2, there will be a game 3, a deciding game to see who will make it to the finals. Man, this is the climax of what has been an amazing Grand Prix, the highest level of Osiris League I think we've seen thus far. I think that's safe to say.
Oh,
and
yeah, for sure.
The Chinese server teams have come out to play this year. The last 3 teams standing from the Chinese server. You know, what has been the biggest differentiating factor from this Grand Prix compared to, you know, what we've watched before in the previous Grand Prix and Osiris League, Dirty Dan? Like, well, why has the gameplay been so different in this Grand Prix compared to what we've seen before?
Yeah, I think, you know, having the time to kind of adapt to the fog of war. I think like a lot of teams now are very comfortable with it, and you know, I think some of these looks that we're seeing are dependent on having fog of war, and then also too just like utilizing the Grand Prix accounts to do things that you can't traditionally do, right? So like I've kind of keyed in on this. Like, I don't think you can take this provisioning approach with a normal Osiris League team, because you don't have, like, you know, like, I don't know who has all these sets of gear for farming and whatnot, but and then even too, like with the heavy amount of cav that we see. So I think teams just really getting comfortable with a master strategy play.
They're practicing their master strategy timing here. Everyone here just, you know, standing side by side trying to take the arc. Will this go into... Oh no, it was taken by 732A, so they're like, hey, we tried to do the master strategies thing, we failed. You guys can't do the master strategies thing as well. Let's at least steal this last arc and make the game score look a little bit competitive here, where, I mean, 466W winning by about 10.6k.
It's huge.
It's absolutely huge
boost
for them.
Yeah.
And you know what's crazier? They actually won in provisioning. We'll see the score here as the game ends.
Oh my lord.
GG's to both teams, but 466W in the driver's seat of this best of 3. We could see the scores 32.2k versus 42.8. And look at the 6.9k compared to the 5.9 in provisioning. We were talking about 7328. They've been provisioning. 466W, out provisioning them, out arcing them, and pretty much going even in occupation is the reason they're able to win this game 1. They did. Any final notes before we go into break before game 2?
Just look for home run play next one, guys. I'm banking on it. I think it's kind of what we all like to see, those really exciting plays. So I'm looking for a home run play, and 732A has just got to clean it up a little bit, and I think we'll have some competitive arc play going into the second match here.
All right, don't go anywhere, because in about 10 minutes we are going to go to match 2 of this best of 3. See you guys there.
Bonfire is blazing so bright, calling the fight from vigilance. We stand from dawn to twilight, the empire's rise and conquer. In the wild face of danger, carry on to the victory. You better take a deep breath, each stone it brings a bitter fight. Another chill may run down your spine, fear lurks beyond the edge of sight. Carry on to the glory, to the great victory. Never give up till you die, never give up in this life. For every word that you win bright, it's time to become. Never give up on your mind, hold your weapons, strive and fight. For every kingdom that falls and rise, it's time to become legendary. Chaos, sharpen your knife, make way to find your destiny. Worship a man or a shrine, can both recall is scattered. In the wild town of wardrobes, tearing down all the enemies. You better capture the arcs, the carriers may bug you down. Set up for the swiftest ride, sneaky Texas work as a best alive. Carry on to the glory, to the great victory. Never give up till you die, never give up in this life. For every word that you win bright, it's time to become. Never give up on your mind, hold your weapons, strive and fight. For every kingdom that falls and rise, it's time to become legendary. Across the ocean stories will be told. How you struggle, how you try to define the world. With a sacred name, you are the one chosen to start out the storm. Never give up till you die. Never give up in this life. For every word that you win bright, it's time to become. Never give up on your mind. Hold your weapons, try to fight. For every kingdom that falls and rise, it's time to become legendary. Bonfire is blazing so bright, calling the fight from vigilance. We stand from dawn to twilight. The empires rise and conquer. In the wild face of danger, carry on to the victory. You better take a deep breath. Each dawn it brings a bitter fight. Another chill may run down your spine. Fear looks beyond the edge of sight. Carry on to the glory, to the great victory. Never give up till you die. Never give up in the dark.
We are back into these matches here. It is 466W now in the top left corner versus 732A in the bottom right. Wow, I actually did not know they flipped sides here, Dirty Dan.
Yeah, it caught me by surprise yesterday in the best of 3 match, and I'm gonna probably, similar as yesterday, I'm probably gonna flip flop the names at times because I'm so used to seeing 732A in blue now. So just a heads up.
There you go. As 732A, you know, they were competitive. They tried to do their strategies, but at the end of the day, you know, it was a bit too much for them to come back from. You know, JD, I was doing the math, right? That third arc, 4K points. If they were to steal that arc like they're planning to, and they captured it, that'd be an 8K difference. They would have still lost the match.
Wow.
Because they lost by about 10K. The provisioning being super, super strong from 466W. So it wasn't only them not being able to steal that third arc. It was also just the play in general So we will have to see how they adjust in this game. Dan, do you expect to see anything in these openings here?
Well, first off, that's concerning. That's extremely concerning. If even on that last arc that they're trying to make the home run play, that they it wouldn't have won it for them anyway. In terms of opening, I think maybe you have to potentially come out a little bit aggressive here. If I'm 7-3-2A in that war room, I kind of want to set the tempo going into this thing, because they haven't had the tempo really at all the past 2 days, right? So I think you have to change something up, and maybe if that's over indexing, sending a little bit more to maybe the home desert altar of 466W. But I would want to look to establish a little bit more of an aggressive tempo here, if I'm 7-3-2A, because 466W has just been playing so clean.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps is also, after losing that last arc, they kind of let go of the gas a little bit, but either way, their play definitely needs to improve for them to win this match. 466W, pretty much same old, same old. If they continue what they were doing, they should be able to have this in the bag. As 466W, they were really dominant in that first match. It would be a shame if 7-3-2-8 thus far, before this weekend, go undefeated, and they get eliminated by losing 4 games straight. They're going to make sure that doesn't happen. Let's see the openings here. We could see the fast T1 marches, and I think that's super interesting, the fact that 7-3-2-8 have been really dominating. They beat 60GT, they beat 466S, but this weekend have been out of the game thus far. Can they get back into form on time here? It has to start now. Yeah, this is the second game of best of 3, but if you wipe that last game out of your memory, just say, hey, we just need to win this game, then we just have to win the next game. That's what they have to do.
Yeah, I agree. And to the point of 7-3-2-A kind of like being, having like a dominant run in the upper bracket, me and Brian talked about it yesterday. They've had to play the harder teams leading up to that match against GY16. GY16 wasn't playing a lot of the better teams, and 7-3-2-A arguably had the harder road to get to the position that they were in. And not to say that 466W hasn't been playing good teams, but I mean, when you look at least on the upper bracket, 7-3-2-A definitely had the tougher oppositions, and usually there's a saying, iron sharpens iron, but it's not proven to be that case this weekend so far.
It is going to be a really, it's tough, because 7-3-2-A, especially with the matches I've watched, they have a specific gameplay, specific style of play, where they try to deny as many arcs as possible, and try to slow down the game, try to provision up, try to do all of those things. 466W, I mean, they've been flexible. They can adjust. Versus 7-3-2-A, we haven't seen them have the ability to adjust. So that is going to be the main question, but it's, as Chad is saying, it's going to be very hard for them to adjust out of that play. And I think 466W being the sister team of 466S, 466S being eliminated by 7-3-2-A previously, perhaps gave them some insights as to how to approach, how to attack, how to win against 7-3-2-A. And they've won one game. Now looking up at this game, if they win this game, that is going to be them in the finals. And even though 466 versus GY16 was, seen as the two favorites, it was 466S that was seen as the favorites, not 466W. Now, the 466 Kingdom banding together, perhaps, and trying to make sure that they represent in this finals, but they will have to go over this hurdle, which is 7-3-2-A, to get there in the first place.
Yeah, and I like how the story is kind of developing for 466W. I mean, they're kind of the true underdog if you look at it, right? Like the little sister team to 466S, and when a team like 466S has those expectations, no one's really kind of looking at you. But then when you even to your point, Plato, the run that they've had in this lower bracket, like just constantly kind of being this underdog and showing up week after week and just kind of like proving the doubters wrong. And it's really, really turning into a nice kind of Cinderella story. So we might get like a David versus Goliath if 466W can pull this win off in this match, advance into the finals against GY16, the Goliath of the Chinese server, and 466W kind of representing for the little guys here.
466W lost their first game, won every game since. 732A won every game until this week. So it's a complete inverse between these two stories. Now the question is, who will be the victor? Will it be the team that started off strong and went down to the lower bracket after losing in the upper bracket semifinals? Or will it be that Cinderella run? Will it be the team that lost their first match and have been dominant ever since? As the initial murder ball looks like it will be a really strong Desert Altar hold from 732A. But what is going on here from all these marches? Look at all these blue marches now coming from 466W. They like playing this kind of slow style where they bring these marches middle here. They bring these marches to try to delay and deny the reinforcements. So they might lose initial murder ball. They lost the initial Desert Altar murder ball. 732A now going to the Shrine of War. But overall, these marches here, they're here to deny occupation from the outpost. They're here to deny the refreshes from the marches coming in from 732A. So it is a very, very interesting strategy, and it has worked out for them last game. And this game, to their credit, they're up by two structures right now, taking the Shrine of War and the Shrine of Life away from 732A. So it is looking like a very, very strong opening right now from 466W.
Yeah, I like to play a lot and I said it yesterday as we were wrapping up the GY16 732A matches. I'm like, oh, the playbooks have been exhausted. Like, what other plays can we really see? And here we go, yet again, another play that we're kind of unfamiliar with seeing, and kind of taking this approach to kind of slow down those marches coming out of the home area. And I think also 466W taking a page out of GY16's book a little bit and kind of focusing on the shrines a little bit more, which GY16 really, really likes to do and puts an emphasis on taking the Shrine of Life, and 466W kind of taking a page out of their playbook and putting it to use here.
Yeah, I mean, you usually see the altars be contested. The shrines, now that's the question. For 732A, it's like, hey, usually we're at the altars, but now we're going to these shrines. Shrine of War, they're going to be sending marches that would usually go to the Sky Altar. Now we're starting to see a lot of marches rotate up to the Sky Altar, so perhaps trying to, pivot away marches, take marches and bring them over to the shrine, and then after that, go over with the refreshes to the Sky Altar while all the marches that were defending the shrine and retook the shrine are low. It is a very interesting dilemma that 732 are in, is because you can't give up these shrines. You don't want to give up first occupation. You're going to be giving away 160. Wait, it is 400 points for first occupation, so it's nothing to ignore. So at least they were able to take back the Shrine of Life. They should be able to take back the Shrine of War. Although,
and then I think to this approach as well is they're already slowing down the core strategy of 732A of trying to win a first arc, and kind of like if we look down on that opening gate area, like you could already see the madness down there and how it's kind of already slowed them. Like look at all the troops that are already kind of rushing up for 732A in the blue, and then I'm sorry, I did it already. 466W in the blue, and then 732A in the red. It's like you can already see the difference in the effect that it's having, and really kind of slowing them down on this strategy that 732A kind of lives and dies by. So again, I think it's just a brilliant approach by 466W and kind of really knowing your opponent.
It's also knowing the limits of Arco Osiris. They're using every account. This isn't just a 30-man team now.
Yeah,
this is a 35-man. I think they have 5 substitutes. It's 35 accounts being used, running it down middle, trying to deny as much as possible. But we will have to see. It is an all-in from both teams yet again. We saw it to the death used by 732A in that first arc. They lost that first arc. What skills do you think we'll see in this first arc there, Dan? Do you think it'll be a repeat, or will they adjust the skills? Like, what are you expecting?
I hope whatever they decide to do, they change it up, because what's the definition of insanity? Is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. And this weekend has proved to be just that, right? To the death has just not been working. So personally, I would opt for like a bog down, opt for a Heaven's Grace, like those which, especially when you're kind of sending as many troops as you are, right? You kind of don't want to limit yourself to just this 30 troop buff. I would like to see a bog down Heaven's Grace or something of that nature, dust up, but just get away from the to the death, because it clearly has not been working these past 2 days.
Sky Altar was taken by 466W, so they will be having that slight point advantage. And the longer this goes,
I see. You see that little murder ball?
yeah,
You see that? We might be getting a sneaky tactics approach. Maybe they might be going for a home run on an obelisk play here, trying to catch 466W off guard.
but there's a march running straight to that murder ball.
Oh my gosh, it's gonna get sniffed out. Oh my goodness!
Wow,
it's like they know. It's like they know exactly where they're parked.
This is game knowledge right here. Let's keep our eyes on here. Oh, they have sentry knowledge already. So they see a murder ball coming up, so
Wow,
they already
okay.
knew. And now the march here is just confirming that the murder ball is there. There you go. They see this murder ball. Sneaky tactics now used by 732A. And it looks like they're going middle. I think they called off the play.
That would have been nice. Honestly, I mean, that's kind of something, again, like it change it up, do something different. And I think that's a right approach. At least in the mindset of 732A, you like to kind of see this. But now let's see if they can kind of pull it together here, because now they're thinking one thing and now they have to go, and it looks like there's maybe a little bit of a scramble going on. So again, they got to stay composed here. Their plan didn't work. You got to kind of go into this mid arc fight, and you got to kind of handle your business now.
Yeah, this is gonna be, I wouldn't say a must win, but with how we've seen 732A play, it might be a must win arc fight for them. They do not want to be playing from behind here.
I think at the very least it's a morale boost, right? Like you have to imagine that the players aren't feeling too great, losing 3 straight matches now, from yesterday and today. So they need to, at least at the very least, for morale.
Heaven's Grace used by both teams.
There we
So
go.
it's a mirror of skills this time. Heaven's Grace, dust up, sneaky tactics. So there should be no difference in skills. It'll be a difference in skill in terms of march selection. And this is looking like a bloodbath. It's looking like just a blob of marches going together here. I will say 732A should be disadvantaged because they do need to push in. But look at the sad faces coming out from both sides. But it does look more blue sad faces. Is it more blue? I can't tell. They still have the positioning advantage, though. Arc is spawning in 10 seconds. And now 732A are trying to deny a clean pull. If there's a clean pull by 466W, it is going to be absolutely detrimental, even if they win this murder ball here. But I think them trying to push in is actually compromising their murder ball a little bit. Now it'll come down to the first pull. Who gets first pull? It is 466W, a double C, a hero double C running away with the arc. Now 732A, they're like, screw the murder ball. We have to take down this arc carrier. Now the murder ball is going to be in 466W's favor because of the heroics of this double C. This double C, Dirty Dan, is zooming out of here. It's already pretty much out of the middle here. And this is going to be a huge play with reinforcements coming in from 466W. My goodness, Dirty Dan, this is an absolutely huge pull from 466W.
Yeah, really clean pull. And you talk about the morale, and it's kind of disheartening because 732A kind of was looking to win that murder ball there, but that lack of positioning kind of costed them. And to your point, where you have to disengage on a murder ball and now start taking free shots as you race up to try and chase the arc carrier. Just never really puts you in a good position. And I think 466W is gonna secure this arc here. It would be very shocking to me if they can't.
732 actually won that mid fight. Even skills, everything, you know, dead even. It's just 466W had the positioning. The murder ball just engaged way too late. And now 466W getting that first pull, getting control of the game, even though 732A had control of that mid fight. They essentially stole this arc from 732A.
Yeah. That's gotta sting. That's really gotta sting if you're 732A. And now it's like, okay, let's flip the script, like, or let's turn the page. We lost the arc. We gotta go, and we have to go fast. We have to start getting these. We have to start getting these structures. We have to start provisioning, and we have to start taking those steps, right? And they, as I stated to open the match, they have to get aggressive. They have to get really aggressive here, and with that, staying aggressive, but also staying composed and kind of keeping their timings on some of these, because that is what the occupation game is. It really is all about timing. So 732A needs to start putting their foot on the gas pedal here.
This is going to be absolutely detrimental for 732A. They're losing in straight up occupation. They lost that first arc. They don't only lose the first arc, they lost control of how many arcs are going to be in the game. It is all in 466W's hands, and that spells disaster for 732A. Even though I feel like 732A played that so well, they played that mid fight really well. They won that straight up mid fight.
Yeah.
But they just were not able to secure the arc because of the early positioning advantage from 466W. Much of that can be attributed to their potential play on that outer lane being sniffed out, right? Like, I think they're trying to do some shenanigans out here, but unfortunately for them, 466W had a sentry. They knew exactly what was going on. And now it's going to be a very tough hill to climb. They have to somehow get back via provisions, get back through occupation. But you can see that 466W have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 provisioners out, compared to what I see so far is only 3 from 732A. 732A, I mean, they are crumbling right now. And it is really tough for them to come back into this. But Dirty Dan, if you were them, if you're in their comms, if you're coaching them, what do you think the game plan would be? Like, what would you say for them to do to get back into this?
Yeah, look, you got to focus, right? This is now make or break. And I think this is maybe, like, obviously you can't give like a pep talk or like a motivational speech in the middle of a match, but like, there's got to be some kind of, like, you got to get these guys fired back up, and I think that's really the main thing here is you got to get fired up. You got to focus in, because you did do a really good job on that mid fight. You won that mid fight. It was just the positioning was a little bit off, and I was gonna call it too that the position was a little off kilter just because of the play that they were trying to do. But like. It was won. It was in your hands. Like, you guys are doing good. So just focus in, lock in, and let's do this thing. Like, the steps are there. You have to go back, stabilize your structures, get provisioning a little bit more, and just be prepared for whenever 466W decides to catch this arc. Be prepared and get ready for that next arc fight, because you need to start catching some arcs now.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, that proved that they could win a mid fight. They won that mid fight. That was theirs. It's just, as we were talking about, because they had marches, not middle, and doing that sneaky tactics play, it compromised their ability to gain positioning. That it wasn't that many marches. It's 30 marches, but 30 marches is make or break, especially when everything's even. All the counts are even. Everything's even. You know, same commander, same troops, same armaments. When everything's even, where you place your marches means the world, because that's the only difference. What you target and where you place your marches is essentially the only difference between these two teams.
Yep.
And we saw last match that the difference was so much that it was a 10k difference. This match, they actually were able to win that first murder ball fight, but they still lost the arc, which is soul crushing, heartbreaking. But they could still run it back and even up the match, perhaps by winning a second and third arc.
Yeah, I think that's their key to victory here is just restabilize, and you got to go in and you know, get these arcs. And you know, I'm really happy to see that they did change it up. Like that gives me it still gives me hope for this match, right? They changed it up. They got away from the To the Death. They used the Heaven's Grace dust up, mirroring what 466W was doing. But man, what a sentry too from 466W to sniff that out. The sentry in conjunction with the scouting player, potentially saving the match for 46W, because there was definitely, I would say that there was probably a play on the obelisk that 732A was lining up there.
And you know what's crazier is that March that sniffed out that play actually just came back from taking their Sky Altar. So that March was busy. It took the Sky Altar of 732A, and it also saw all of those marches that were sneaky tactics. So man, what a huge play. Now the question is, how can 732A get it back into this game? It has to be through holding the structures, trying to get a lead in terms of building game. Because right now, this is without the arc being captured. They're still down by about 1.6k. With the arc captured, that'd be a 4.6k lead. Meaning that even with that second arc, it's not going to make this game an even state. It's going to make it about a 1k lead from 466W. So they need to continue getting these structures, need to continue chipping away at this point differential, and then get back into the match like that.
Yeah, and they're kind of starting to make that approach here, as they have assaults going on both Desert Altar and Sky Altar of 466W. So they are in position to start making those moves. Now it's about if they can execute, as this Eleanor for 466W is trying to hold on and preserve their point generation to extend them into the finals against the awaiting GY16 Titan.
Man, Dirty Dan, you know what I'm realizing right now?
What's that?
Is that 466W is doing the 732A strat. They have 10 provisioners out. They're just holding their structhave and going to out provision and out occupation their opponents here. This is what 732A have built their leads on.
Oh my gosh.
This is how they've been winning their games. And now they're potentially going to lose to their own strategy that 466W is employing right now. And man, I mean, if that's the case, 732A, since they do this strategy quite a bit, they should know the counter. So what will they do? How will they counter this will be the main question. Because the provisioners are out and about right now for 466W. They are provisioning like crazy, which indicates to me that they are really comfortable in just defending their own structures, filling with marches, because they would be disadvantaged. I mean, attackers are disadvantaged regardless, but if you send out more provisioner marches, those are more marches that are not out in the open field. It is way easier though to defend your own structures, because all you have to do is fill the structure in with the double C's, with the triple line formation, with the reinforcements, and everything will be a-okay. You don't need that march advantage. All you need is the march speed. So it is an even map state right now, but if we look at the provisions, this is like an extra, this is extra points going to 466W's favor. Now 732A, I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 provisioners out there, still less than what 466W has out there. So 466W slowly but surely gaining a point lead via provisions, even if the game's even.
Yeah, 732A is doing a good job to respond to that, though. They have a few people out in the field trying to, kill off some of the provisioners, or at the very least slow them down, right? And just kind of make, have it in their minds that, hey, there is someone out here who's kind of looking for you. So again, I think small adjustments, because I believe it was 466W who was doing that 732A last match, and I didn't see 732A respond to it. So we're seeing that 7-3-2-8 has made the adjustments. So they are kind of going on the fly and changing what they need to change. And we'll see if it affects this outcome. But they are still definitely very much alive in this. And if I'm them, even more so now that you're kind of like pointing it out, like, man, we can't lose to our own strategy. That would kind of be the ultimate cherry on top to a not so great weekend for 7-3-2-A. So I think if anything, that if there hasn't been anything to motivate them, that should be motivating them now.
Arc still not captured. This will be a full hold, holding it for as long as possible, trying to lessen the amount of arcs, perhaps make it even a 2-arc game. Oh man, this is losing back to back to back and potentially losing that 4th match in a row after going perfect in the Grand Prix would be so damaging for 7-3-2-A. And the funny thing is, going into this tournament, 7-3-2-A had no expectations. There wasn't like any predictions or anything that 7-3-2-A would even make it this far. But now that they made it this far, they're trying to make their way on top here, trying to make their way all the way to the finals. And it'll take this game, coming back from this game and winning a 3rd game versus 466W. They've been doubted from the beginning, losing that first game. Now that they're in this position, the driver's seats, victory's so close that they could taste it.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of these notes here too. I was just trying to see if they had played against each other previous, but both teams kind of relatively seen as underdogs from the Chinese servers. So I think as you like kind of brought to light, like there was not really any expectations from 7-3-2-A, but after that first week and what they did to 60GT, I think really kind of put the spotlight on them. And again, kind of going through that upper bracket as they did. And yeah, maybe the spotlight just proving to be a little bit too big for 7-3-2-A this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, we have no context behind what's going on in 7-3-2-A. For example, they might be in KVK as well, similar to 9-3-T. Like, there might be something going on their end, but I mean, they are competing. It is still a close game. It is still anyone's game with that 2nd arc. If they're able to capture the 2nd arc and kind of increase the pace of the game, I feel like they still have a pretty decent chance. And they did capture the Desert Altar here, so there is some point gain for them on the Desert Altar as long as they're able to hold it, as long as they're able to reinforce it. There is an avenue for them to come back here. So we will have to see what they plan to do with the rally coming in. It is a CPO with Pakal, so some anti-swarm on that. As well as that 2nd arc fight. That 2nd arc fight is going to mean the world to them. They're able to stabilize it with the 2nd arc, then it will be up to anyone's game after that. If they decide to capture that arc early for a 3rd arc fight, or if they want to play their own game against 466W.
Yeah, and the 2nd arc, again, I think the focus is on the skill usage, and I'm going to be looking for what skills 7-3-2-A decides to deploy. Now that sneaky tactics play is kind of out of the realm of a possibility, right? The reason why that play works in this Grand Prix format, at least, is because you want to look to deny the teleport spots, and at this point in the match, most of them are filled up. So maybe if you do pull it off, you deny a couple cities, but it's not the end of the world. So I think with that off the board, we're gonna see a pretty straightforward match, at least I would think. And then I'm really looking forward to what skills 7-3-2-A is going to be using for this kind of almost a must win. And Arc did get cashed, so. Here we go. Now we got to start gearing up.
7 minutes 40 seconds into a must-win arc fight for 7-3-2-A. For 466W, they have options. They can go buildings if they want to. Kind of sack the arc, go use their sneaky tactics to slow down the arc and keep the middle honest. Meanwhile, going for, the altars and shrines of 7-3-2-A. The thing is, when you are this far ahead, by about 4.5k, you have options as to what to do. You can go buildings, you can contest mid. We've seen, teams fake that they're going buildings and master strategies mid. There's so many plans versus 732A. They have to play this tightrope. They have to play this balancing game of, hey, we need to hold our structures, but we also need to win this mid fight, and it's going to be hard to do both.
Extremely hard. And yeah, it kind of falls on some of the shot callers, right? And these guys who are kind of, you know, conducting in voice, and, you know, and I think, you know, what is very key, and I think 466W has kind of been doing a little bit better. And I think Redline pointed out last week, which was like really like revealing to me, is this is really a game of information. It's a game of exchanging information, and we're gonna have to see 732A on full display going into this next mid arc fight on how they use that information. You know, how many troops is 466W sending into mid? Are they going for an occupation focus? So a lot riding on the second arc, and 732A has to play it perfectly.
As 732A, I mean, it is going to be tough. The reason why comebacks are tough is because you have to walk that tightrope. And the thing is, you're down for a reason. There's a reason why you're down. It's not like you go, you know, have a deficit out of nowhere. There's play. That means you've been outplayed earlier in the game. I will say that mid fight was on 732A's favor. It's just the arc carrier, the hero arc carrier, able to take that arc from under their noses. So perhaps they're banking on, hey, if we execute our mid fight a little bit faster, a little bit sooner, rotate a little bit quicker, get that positioning, then we could win. But we have to hold our own structures. And
yeah, that's a thing too. Like, right, like in the mind of 732A, you maybe want to start kind of getting into a rotation now. With just over 5 minutes until the mid arc spawns, and but you can't compromise your structures. Like that's like you said, that's that tightrope that you have to walk in it, and the room for error on this second arc is so thin, and I'm getting nervous for 732A over here.
Yeah, it is going to be really rough and tough, because 466W essentially can dictate the pace of the game. They can dictate, hey, you're going middle? No, you're coming to your structures because you need to hold your structures as well. Or hey, like, we're gonna go middle, and now we're gonna have positioning. What are you gonna do to that? It's gonna be a very tough question to answer for 732A, and they haven't shown that they know the answers to these questions thus far in this best of 3, game 2 of a best of 3. Finding the answers halfway through game 2 would be a miraculous feat, but I mean, they did rotate early here. So now the question is, can they hold on to their buildings, specifically the altars? The Sky Altar looks like it's under heavy assault. The Desert Altar was defended, so at least, you know, they could rest easy on that Desert Altar for a little bit here. But yeah, there is a full rotation now, a full exodus. Look at all of the marches from this Sky Altar, just running away, knowing that this is pure confidence, knowing that they have this under control. They're even sending out marches, like double C marches, that were filling the Sky Altar. That's how confident they are with the Sky Altar hold. So they are just going and sending everything middle, because that last mid fight, it went really well for them. They just did not have the positioning to take that arc. Now they're here early. They're probably going to go for this early positioning advantage. 466W could either go buildings or try to contest the mid. Dirty Dan, what do you think 466W will do here?
Oh man, it's a tough call. I think the safe play here is to maybe just go and contest mid, right? I don't think you if you get fancy with this thing and you decide to go buildings, it could potentially backfire, because then again, you open the door for putting more points into the match, you know, as you stated in match 1. So I think if you're 466W, you want to go in, you want to just win this mid, you just want to win this arc, and then you hold it, and then you just bleed it out, because it's exactly what they did to gain this lead in the first place in this first, you know, for 35 minutes of the match. And if they win it again, then it's GG's.
What is going on here? There's 2 sentries. Seeing a murder ball in front of this area here. There's also another murder ball on this right side. So perhaps just balling up before they go middle, making sure that they don't get picked off.
Yeah, I think good sentries there for 732A to kind of, again, like trying to just make sure that there isn't going to be like a full-on assault on their buildings. And I think those are really, really well-placed sentries to kind of give them that insight that, hey, they are kind of going for mid, potentially, as that murder ball sitting very patiently in the back. But yeah, positioning advantage is looking a lot better for 732A in this. And yeah, I would expect 466W to dive in and try and take this thing. Maybe not.
Sneaky Tactics was used in the back here. And they're going buildings, I think. This is a very far rotation, but they're not going middle. I don't know where they're going. This is unheard of for me, at least. I think they're probably going to go to the Desert Altar, though, with their positioning here. The Sky Altar is already under heavy threat. So this is what we were talking about. 466W going buildings, deciding to go buildings while also contesting this mid fight. There is about a minute left until the arc spawns. So if they're able to take the buildings of 732A in quick fashion here and hold them for quite some time, it's going to be really, really tough for 732A to rotate back into these buildings here. Sky Altar will most definitely fall. There are, you know, some marches out here trying to reinforce the Sky Altar, but this is a pummeling that it's taking, and no garrison could hold on to that. Meanwhile, the Desert Altar is going to be attacked with the Sneaky Tactics that we saw earlier in the middle, and now it does look like, because the Sneaky Tactics was used, 732A had to stay middle, and they're probably expecting like 30 marches Sneaky Tactic in the back here trying to snipe out their arc carrier, but instead all of those Sneaky Tactics marches went to the Desert Altar here waiting for the rally. They don't actually see the Sneaky Tactics marches right now.
That's good patience.
As soon as the rally hits, look, they're gonna start swarming down now they all of a sudden they see all these marches come out of stealth here, and all of these marches came out of nowhere, and this Desert Altar is under heavy assault. Oh my goodness.
Good play there from 732A, and now it's okay. 732A, you know what's going on. You have this information available to you now. How do you communicate it and how do you respond, right? Because you have the arc in hand. That's step one. And now you got to go and you got to cache this thing, and you got to go retake your structures, right? So
they have a Herman Prime carrying the arc, and usually I don't, you know, I'm like, if you're near the arc, you got to pick it up. But this was a pretty uncontested arc. They could have chose any archer march, or rather cavalry march.
Yeah.
But they had a double C right next to it, literally standing on top of the arc carrier. But now this is gonna be. It's not going to be galloping. It's not going to be, you know, marching. This guy is going to be in the mud. This is going to be a bogged down, self-imposed. With how slow this Herman Prime is going to be walking. And that's going to be so detrimental to them. They lost the building game. They have to capture this arc ASAP and try to make this a 3-arc game. But now there's, you know, 3 altars in control of their opponents right now. With this arc being captured, they're still going to be down by quite some amount of points here. They're still going to be down by about 2.5k. Their opponents have been out provisioning them this whole time. Everything's pointing 466W, including the arc carrier.
Yeah, but a little bit of a unforced error there from 732A, and that was one thing that Brian brought up yesterday that we saw, I believe, in the second match, maybe even the first, but there has been quite a number of unforced errors from 732A, and just the small things, just, you know, in a match where these stakes are so high in the semifinals, just errors that you can't afford to make, and things so simple as just getting the proper arc carrier to start running this thing back. And yeah, time is their enemy right now. Time is their enemy. That clock is ticking. They need to get this arc cash, and they need to cash try and get another arc cash, because the gap is starting to build a little bit here, Plata.
Yeah, this gap is going to continue building. 740 points per minute to 30. There's one outpost generating points. That's it. Even the obelisks are not generating points. So that is going to spell disaster for 732A. The Shrine of Life taken. Sky Altar still generating points. Shrine of War. The Desert Altar is now generating points for 732A, but it is going to be swarmed down. There's just a stranglehold that 466W has on these structures, and it does look like 732A. They were trying to try to capture in the Desert Altar. The Desert Altar is still under 466W's hands. They have to walk it back all the way to their buildings. This is a huge win for 466W, and 732A are reeling right now.
Yeah, and they gotta move that arc carrier and maybe even protect it a little bit better. They did this yesterday too, where they had an arc and they didn't protect it properly, and GY16 master strategist on them to harass that arc carrier. So they're walking on eggshells. They gotta move this thing, and I think it's a little bit better positioning now. But they were scaring me for a bit because I started seeing a lot of blue lines starting to go down onto the arc. But it looks to be good now. They got to cash this thing, and they got to cash it quickly because they got to get some more points on the board.
Man, losing not 1, not 2, not 3, but LeBron James 4 amount of matches in a row would be so detrimental to their psyche. It would be such a sad way to end your Grand Prix run. They did capture the arc, but look at that, dude, and they're still down by about 3.6k with an arc captured, with 466W out provisioning them. They have to get these structures back. They have to get these altars back. But it's been so tough. Such a good defense from 466W. Now it does look like they finally have the numbers for 732A. Finally, after that arc was captured, saying, hey, like, we don't have to escort it anymore. We could finally send our marches to these structures. But the damage has already been done. This is a very big lead. It's already more than 4k. 4k is the next arc. So even if 732A capture the arc, they are down in terms of points. And this lead is still gonna grow because the impact is shown up to 2 minutes after the building has been captured. The building still hasn't been captured. That's because they have to wait 2 minutes before it starts generating points for them. 16 minutes left to go, down by about 4.2k. I just said they were down by 3.6 about a minute ago. So this point lead is continuing to grow and grow and grow and grow. 732A, they need a miracle.
Yeah, we kind of even just keyed in on it last match, and we couldn't really kind of get the precise timing, and I don't know what the precise timing on it was just now, but that's the timing that you need to hold those structures to kind of like build a lead, and I want to say that was probably close to 5 minutes ish. So I think that is probably about the sweet spot where if you kind of decide to sack middle and go for structures, you want to at least hold those altars 4 or 5 minutes minimum to really get that full value, and it's on display here. I mean, that points per minute for 466W was ticking at 700 plus points per minute for quite some time there. And it's a huge swing. It's a huge swing, and the window is closing for 732A here. And even going into this next arc fight, like there's other things on the board too. With a 466W, again, the playbook is totally open to them. They're in control. They can play a master strategist. They can do this. They can do that. So it's really tough for 732A to start, getting back into this thing here.
They're swinging heavy, you said. I feel like they hit a home run. That first game, this second game looking to be the same here. There is one last arc fight, and this is what we were talking about, though. 466W don't even need to go to the arc fight.
Yeah,
they could do the exact same thing. They can go buildings, and that's what I'm talking about. The tightrope that 732A have to walk is so treacherous. They couldn't walk it the first time. Why should we believe that they could walk it the second time? Dirty Dan, do you think they have it in them to walk and balance this, the building game and the structure game that they need to hold and that they need to capture?
You know, it almost like makes me think like maybe they don't go mid either, or maybe go for their own master strategist play, because they have to keep these troops home. Like they've been under such pressure, and like even looking here, like the attack again on their desert altar falling. It's like, you know, we are 4.5 minutes until Arc spawns. You need to start getting some rotations in. You need to, you know, there's a lot of need to do's for 732A. So I'm almost thinking like maybe they have to potentially take a master strategist approach here, because there's so much pressure being put on their buildings here. And you talk about point lead, we're almost at 7,000 points here. So it is absolutely 1,000% true that 466W doesn't need to go to this Arc fight at all. So it's going to be really interesting to see how 732A responds to that.
It looks like a lot of that point lead coming from provisions, a lot of it making those building plays finalizing. But man, up by about 6.8k. There's no arc that gives 6.8k points. This arc will give 4k. They'll need to make up the points somehow, either by provisioning, either by buildings. Building game has not been as strong as 732A's building game has been. This game has not been building game for them at all. You can see the occupation score 23.1k to 18.7k.
Oof.
They need to make up that 5k from either provisionings or this arc. I think the arc is going to be a must, but how can you go arc when your buildings have been crumbling, have been falling, have been pretty much blue throughout most of this match? It's a tough question to answer, and 732A thus far has not been able to answer it. If they're going to be able to answer it in these next 12 minutes, will determine the rest of their season. Will determine if they make it through to game 3 or if they get knocked out after losing 4 games straight. This is going to be the biggest 12 minutes of 732A's Grand Prix run.
Yeah, an interesting call here from 466W saying, hey, well, we don't need to go mid, but we're going to go mid. So, yeah, it's again, this is where it now becomes this processing of information. How can you communicate it? If they can sniff it out and say, hey, they're bringing this pretty large force into mid, we can go middle. We can go structure, and master strategist is now a thing for us, right? We have to take their structures. We have to do what they just did to us, and then we master strategist the arc. And then I think that's the only way that we can kind of see this thing coming out in favor of 732A.
I mean, there's no way that they could win this mid fight now. I mean, perhaps, but man, it's so tough. We've seen that first mid fight where they went full mid. I'm gonna bring it. I think this match comes down to that first mid fight where they won middle, but they lost the arc.
Yeah,
and that was just due to timing, due to positioning. This is very reminiscent of that. There's 1 minute 30 seconds left, but they don't even have the numbers middle now. This is gonna be so hard for 732A to try to capture. I think 466W is going to go for a master strategies play themselves. I think 466W is going to take the arc and master strategist it home, just with how they're positioning right now. And 732A, we were talking about, okay, they're going to do a master strategist play of themselves, but they are just, they don't have any marches middle.
Yeah.
They have okay, this is going to be the play. They have sneaky tactics marches walking middle now. 15 seconds to go. Will they be able to get the timing? Will they be able to get the first pull? They weren't able to get it throughout this whole series. The first match where they tried to sneaky tactics out that arc, in that third arc, they're trying to run it back, Dirty Dan.
Are we going to see a potential double master strategist here? I don't know if I've seen that before.
This is going to be a double master strategist. I've seen it before. 93T versus, I think it was JST at the time. Now 732A versus 466W, both of them putting their seasons on the line here. More so 732A being down by that amount of points compared to 466W. Master strategy is now used by 732A. It'll come down to first tap. Who gets the first tap? I think it might actually be 732A.
Yeah, I think they're a second ahead there, it looked like.
A millisecond ahead. Will they be able to capture? They were! They have the arc! Are they going to be able to run away? They were able to steal the arc, Dirty Dan! This match is still alive. 732A have the Arc of Osiris. They will cash this in. This is a huge play from them. But will it be enough? They are still going to be down by about 3k points. They're going to try to deny this arc for as long as possible. Try to make it so that there's 8 minutes left in the match. Then they're going to capture it. Make sure that there's no fourth arc here. But this is a play that they tried in game 1 and failed. They tried it back, ran it back. That was the only play that they could do. And they have done it. They have made this game a little bit more even. But it is still going to be about a 3k point lead for 466W. Will they be able to make it back in terms of provisioning? That's going to be the question, because 466W have already sent in their major provisioners. 466W also master strategizing. Where are they master strategizing to? To the upper sky altar. They're going to try to combat it with building game here. The bottom side of the map teleporting to the top sky altar. This is going to be so interesting. Now they're going to try to do this building approach, which we were talking about. They did not have to go mid. They did not have to gamble on this arc. They could have just went for these structures instead. Now opting to go for the structures with the master strategist. But what this indicates to me, Dirty Dan, is that the bottom side of the map is lower on troops for 466W. So that means that the sky altar is under threat, that the Shrine of War should be under threat. There's going to be some structured trades. Meanwhile, 732A holding onto the structure for dear life.
Yeah, that's a great play from 466W, and as you said, it kind of compromises them a little bit, but this is just in high-end gameplay like this, like, it's just the thinking on the fly, right? And hey, we have the skill points on the board, we want to use them.
They're filling the structure. What a huge hold.
That is massive. That is massive. And yeah, this is gonna come down to provisions, and I think 466W might be kicking themselves a little bit here, where they could have just opted to go for the building game. They did not need to go for that last arc.
It's so low, Dirty Dan. It is getting minuscule. There you go. A structure has flipped. So the master strategies back did in fact, pay out here. They're able to flip the structure. That's minus 300 points. We got to keep that in mind. The building game, the points per minute right now going in 732A's favor. Oh my goodness, Dirty Dan. This is going to be a close. I actually think this is going to be a close one. It might be a 1k point game here, depending on how much 732A has provisioned. And I will say 732A have not been provisioning as much as they usually do. I expect to see maybe 5k, maybe 6k. There's already 4k on the board for 466W. They brought back home their provisioners, so we don't expect to see an explosion from them, but they do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 provisioners out compared to the handful that 732A has. Man, this game got interesting real quick.
Yeah, it did, and really good response from 732A. We kind of called it, right? They needed to make that master strategist play work. Flopped on it in the first match, and then came back and just retweaked that timing a little bit. And shout out to the guy who got the pull on that, just a split second faster than the 466W March. That came in clutch there.
Yeah, we will have to see how many provisions that these provisioners were able to bring in, because they have not brought in their main provisioners. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 provisioners on their side. So a bit more than a handful, but the Swiss cheese from 466W.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually gonna come down to provision. So Dirty Dan, I'm gonna ask you, keep an eye out for 732A's provisioners. Let me know. I'll pan the cam over once they start bringing the provisioners back home, and we will do the count, because it is down to 1.9k point lead from 466W. Oh my goodness. This is going to be for a game 3.
We will start to see, I believe, Plato, and I'm slightly ahead of you, so I'll give you the kind of heads up. On the bottom side, I believe we're going to see some provisions starting to come in here really soon within these next few seconds. As you can see, those two bottom dots, they're starting to race home. I think those might be a pretty large chunk of points coming in. So 732A is already starting to recall some of these provisioners.
It's an early recall. That's 4 minutes in. Recalling some of these provisioners in. Perhaps being so confident that, you know, they already out provisioned 466W. Oh yeah, these provisioners coming in at 1K a pop. My goodness. There you go. It is now down to 600 points in a game where, in a series rather, where 466W had the driver's seat this whole time. All it takes is one arc steal from 732A to turn everything upside down. And now 732A, they are looking at their provisioners, pleading that they have enough points. This is going to come down to who can gather more, who can gather the fastest here. Because the structures at this point going pretty even. The Desert Altar was flipped. Oh my goodness, Dirty Dan. Are we going to a game 3?
Potentially going to a game 3 in this best of 3 series. 466W up 1-0. 732A provisioning for their Grand Prix lives here. And yeah, that honestly too, that Desert Altar flip that you called out is kind of big. That's a 300 point swing. So oh man, you would hate to lose by 300 points if you're 466W.
They are this is 400 points. This is crazy. Chat, who do you think is gonna win this match? Is it 732A? Is it 466W? It's these provisioners are starting to come in. It's down to 100 points. It's down to 100 points for 732, and there's more provisioners coming in. It is now down to 100 points yet again. These provisioners coming through from 732A. They also have the top side here. Although I think the bottom side has their major provisioner. I'm not exactly too sure. Dirty Dan, you gotta keep me updated where these provisioners are at. Are they in this bottom side here? There's a couple of provisioners coming into this bottom side. The buildings right now going super even. You can see that this assault will not be successful. The assault on the Desert Altar might actually be successful. But I'm going to look at this Desert Altar. Dirty Dan, let me know when the provisions start coming in, because it is up. It is. The points keep fluctuating. I can't even say it's 700 points, 600 points, 800 points.
We're going to close in on that top side obelisk here. That little contingent of troops. Keep an eye on those. Those look to be pretty fat provisioners for 732A.
732A are in the lead for the first time this series. These provisioners, they're waiting for a point explosion here. They've gone in. They're up by 800 points, Dirty Dan.
Wow.
732A. Have they done it? I think the answer is yes. The answer is yes. They're up by 1.9K. No provisioners from 466W. They have done it. They have stolen this game from 466W right under their noses with an arc steal. Master strategy, sneaky tactics, making that arc, stealing away, heisting this game and this potential series away from 466W. 466W, this was under their control. They had everything in their hands, but it slipped. Now going to a game 3 of this best of 3.
Oh man.
What a play and what a game from 732A. Potentially losing 3 games straight after going perfect in the Grand Prix. potentially losing 4 games to get kicked out. They said no, we will make it to a decisive game 3. Dirty Dan, what do you think?
Great adjustments by 732A, switching up a little bit on their skill usage, and then, you know, I just got to give it to him for staying composed. They had to have been rattled throughout this match, and just staying composed, executing on the match strategist, going out on the provisions, and we're going into match 3. And I just want to call out real quick too, 466W again, maybe kind of regretting going for that 3rd arc where they could have just opted for the building game, but we'll see how they adjust now going into this last match to determine who goes into the finals to face GY16.
The game 3 of this best of 3 coming right up after this short break. See you guys there.
Bonfire is blazing so bright, calling the fight from vigilance. We stand from dawn to twilight. The empire's rise and conquer. In the wild face of danger, carry on to the victory. You better take a deep breath. Each dawn it brings a bitter fight. Another chill may run down your spine. Fear looks beyond the other side. Carry on to the glory, to the great victory. Never give up till you die. Never give up in this life. For every word that you win bright, it's time to become. Never give up on your mind. Hold your weapons, strive and fight. For every kingdom that falls and rise, it's time to become legendary. Chaos for sharpening your knife. Make way to find your destiny. Worship a man or a shrine. Can both recall a scattered. In the wild town of wardrobes, tearing down all the enemies. You better capture the arcs. The carriers may bug you down. Set up for the swift that's right. Sneaky Texas work as your best alive. Carry on to the glory, to the great victory. Never give up till you die. Never give up in this life. For every word that you win bright, it's time to become. Never give up on your mind. Hold your weapons, strive and fight. For every kingdom that falls and rise, stories will be told. How you struggle, how you try to define the world. With a sacred name, you are the one chosen to start up the storm. Never give up till you die. Never give up in this life. For every word that you win bright, it's time to become. Never give up on your mind. Hold your weapons right and fight. For every kingdom that falls and rise, it's time to become legendary. Bonfire is blazing so bright, calling the fight from vigilance. We stand from dawn to twilight. The empire's rise and conquer. In the wild face of danger, carry on to the victory. You better take a deep breath. Each dawn it brings a bitter fight. Another chill may run down your spine. Fear looks beyond the other side. Carry on to the glory, to the great victory. Never give up till you die. Never give up in this life. For every word that you win bright, it's time to become. Never give up on your mind. Hold your weapons right and fight.
We are back at it with the casts. Game number 3 of the best of 3. Essentially, this is a best of 1. What a series thus far. We are back at the original 732A being in the blue side, the top left corner. Meanwhile, 466W being in the bottom right corner. My goodness, Dirty Dan, what do you think so far of this series?
Good play from both teams. I think both making some small errors, right? So I think 732A, we talk about some of the unforced errors that they had. 466W, I think, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, I'm entitled to it, but I think that they shouldn't have gone for that last arc. I think they should have stayed building focused. But I mean, all in all, I mean, great response from 732A. It's really hard to go down and lose what was it, 3 straight matches, 2 yesterday to GY16, 1 in the first match, 2 466W, and for them to stay composed and just kind of hang in there, lock in, and maybe a little bit of luck, or the early click for the master strategist to pull that off. And keep their Grand Prix hopes alive. It's been a great series. It's been a great series so far, and I think we could probably expect to see probably the most standard play here, as both teams are probably going to look to play, pretty reserved. And I wouldn't expect any antics this time. I think we might see a straight up brawl for this last match.
I still cannot believe 732A were able to take that match away from 466W. This whole series, 466W have been out trading, have been winning against 732A. But all it took was a sneaky tactics into master strategist arc steal into provisioning dominance to get back into that game and eventually win that game, stealing that win away, in my opinion, from 466W. Now, the ball is in 466W's court because, in my opinion, they played everything pretty right. They did everything, bog standard correct, out trading, winning the mid fights when they go mid, trading alters when they don't go mid. All it took was one pull, one person to tap that arc first, and now we are in a game 3. But this game 3, I mean, you're saying it will be standard play. 466W have been playing standard the first 2 games. They ended up losing that last game due to a Hail Mary play. I wonder if they're going to be trying to do a Hail Mary themselves, or if they're going to continue playing this standard play and say, hey, that one game was a fluke, that one arc seal was a fluke. We could still win this with the way that we've planned to.
I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, and shout out to Bulba for kind of calling it out too, another very big arc advocate. They did this yesterday, right? Like, they did this yesterday in a must-win match against 93T. So what's to say that they won't do it again this time? So 466W kind of being the little bit of gamblers, so maybe it won't be standard. Maybe they do try and go for a home run play here and wrap this thing up. So it can come in a variety of forms. It can come in a form of an opening sneaky tactics on an obelisk. It can go on to that first mid arc rotation sneaky tactics and going for an obelisk then. So we'll have to see. Yeah, maybe a home run isn't totally out the window for 466W, but I would say maybe at least for 732A probably playing a little bit more standard. But yeah, 466W really taking a swing yesterday in a winner go home match, and it paid off. So maybe they do the same thing here.
Man, this is gonna be the match of matches right here. Winner of this makes it to the grand finals against GY16, where they will be playing a best of 3 next week. It's actually pretty interesting. This is going to be different than most finals, where if the person from the winner's bracket in that finals loses the first best of 3, there will be a second best of 3. So that's going to be their reward for making it and not losing so far in the Grand Prix, is that they have a chance to, they have an extra best of 3 in the back pocket in the finals. If the loser, or if the lower bracket rather, if the team from the lower bracket loses that first final, loses that first best of 3, then GY16 will automatically be the champion. So GY16 have an extra 2 losses on whomever they verse, if it's 732A or 466W. But before we get to there, we need to see who GY16 will be playing against. Will it be a rematch against 732A? Or will it be a 466W match here? 466W doing their standard play, which is sending marches middle, trying to harass the marches that come out of the gates from 732A. 732A in this case, it looks to be from both sides a very standard game.
Yeah, standard opening for sure. And I think even 732A maybe kind of trying to like counteract that mid play that 466W is kind of implementing here. But yeah, again, kind of sticking to their guns and trying to disrupt the first, you know, the first arc timing for some of these troops. And, you know, the first arc, which is going to be, you know, ever so precious and really kind of dictating the tempo. So,
yeah,
it's
we just witnessed the earliest arc fight in Arc of Osiris history with 8 minute 30 seconds until the arc starts, and people are already fighting around the temple. You know, it's like people, even though that is a joke because they're just denying the marches from contesting their gate, but you know, it's like people lining up for Black Friday sales before it opens up, you know, just
yeah.
waiting outside for the sales. But either way, Desert Altar looks to be under control from 732A. Desert Altar on the other side looks like they are retreating. The poor Heraclius getting left behind. The one player looks like they're 1v9ing right now. Insta sad face from them. But both sides pretty much mirrored, except for the fact that 466W sad faced while 732A walked back. So the marches from 732A are still going to be rather healthy, rather alive. And it does look like that initial Black Friday murder ball 466W was able to win, and now they're going to be start to take over these outposts and try to attack the marches walking out from 732A city. Meanwhile, this top side for 732A looks pretty dominant. They have a lot of marches walking to the Shrine of War, a lot of marches walking to the Sky Altar. The Sky Altar was actually flipped by 732A. You could tell because there is a 3-minute timer on the Sky Altar. So overall, the openings have been, I would say thus far, Dirty Dan, the openings have been in 466W's favor. This opening from 732A looks to be the best opening thus far.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely looks the cleanest. The only thing I kind of question is just kind of backpedaling a little bit from that bottom side murder ball, which we're kind of looking at here now as they're trying to retake that Shrine of War. But yeah, I would say definitely the cleanest opening we've seen from them so far. You know, making the adjustment, trying to kill some of those troops in the middle, and yeah, I think a good job in there. I think they're setting themselves up nicely for this this first mid rotation.
Now the marches from 466W, they're kind of in a pickle here, where they're pretty low. I mean, they're holding on to the Shrine of War, which is good. But if they don't sad face, they're going to be pretty late to the mid rotation. I will say in this Grand Prix, there's a lot less marches just running into cities to reset. All the marches, their resets are based off of pressure, trying to either hold a structure, a Desert Altar, or a Shrine of War that they've taken. In the international server, we would see marches just run into cities and try to refresh. But in this Grand Prix, it has been this pressure sponge of just sad facing on open field marches so that you can trade the damage that you're doing, even though it's a low march. This DPS is going into marches of 732A. This Guan Yu is not going to sad face for 732A. It's probably going to try to swarm down the Shrine of War to sad face. There you go. It's sad face now. But this is the type of play we're talking about. Is this back and forth where there isn't really any pressure that's getting wasted. It's not getting wasted into a city. They're going into marches here so that they could hold the Shrine of Wars, so that they could attack these Sky Altars and try to get an advantage there.
It's those micro optimizations that we always talk about, which kind of like, you know, sets the elite teams from the average teams. And you know, I think that, I guess that kind of attributed to what 732A wanted to do, right? They backpedal a little bit, kind of forcing 466W to kind of have some troops linger out a little bit longer than maybe they had expected. But I also think that's a really good call out too. I didn't notice that, honestly, that there has been a lot less zeroing out on cities and instead kind of forming up a little murder ball in front of an advanced structure that they've taken, you know, to try and just, again, like try to squeeze out as much value as you can from that open field march. And I think it's a great play there and a great call out too, Plato.
Yeah, I mean, if you're there, might as well do damage.
Yeah.
And so they're just trying to do as much damage as humanly possible to their opponents to whatever they're trying to hold. Overall, if we look at the structures though, it is going to be an even game state. Shrine of War, Shrine of Life looks to be contested from both sides, but all of the altars have started generating points. So this will be probably the most even game state that we're going into mid-fight with, where both teams have their home structures under control, except for the Shrine of War. And now this is what we're talking about. These marches here, they're probably now going to sat face into the cities now that we start talking about marches not sat facing into cities. But they have to, because this is the mid timing rotation. But look, they're actually walking to... No, yeah, they're headed straight for the city, trying to sat face as fast as possible into the City Keeper. This is probably the most amount of KP you'll see City Keeper ever get, is during Arc of Osiris and Grand Prix. But yeah, you could see that. In my opinion, I actually think a 466W should be a little bit favored in terms of their mid rotation and timing. But we'll have to see.
Yeah, I think they've usually been a little bit better in terms of that timing, and maybe that's a testament to, you know, some of that pressure that they put on those marches coming out of the gate for 732A. But 732A is kind of postured up pretty nicely here in terms of the positioning and kind of creeping forward, and they do have line of sight on these marches with a sentry in place, so they can see the 466W marches lining up. So 466W actually can't see 732A at all right now, so 732A has a lot of things kind of working for them in favor of this this first arc fight. And again, I'm going to be really looking at the skill usage, and I think too the way to kind of combat that is just keep it simple, just mirror your skills, right?
Yep. And oh, there you go. Sneaky tactics used by 732A. In the back here, you know, trying to... Oh, they're going to the inner lane here.
That looks very similar to what we just saw in the last match from 466W.
Wait, how can this March see? Oh my goodness. You know what I think happened? And I did not know this, but these marches were sneaky tactics, but now they're not. I think the AoE that was hitting another march hit the sneaky tactics march, taking them out of stealth.
Oh my gosh, that's unfortunate.
So I've never seen that interaction before, but it does look like they're going for this hybrid play, going for this desert altar.
Or look at the lines. I don't know if they're going for desert altar, Plato.
Or are they going for the obelisk? Is this an obelisk play?
Oh my goodness. Oh my, they're going for it.
This is a Hail Mary. I mean, they already caught one last match with stealing that arc, but now going for the obelisk. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is like a home run play in a way, but it again, we saw it last match. Like they lost the first arc and they were still able to come back and win. So if they lose this arc, it's not totally out of the realm that they lose the match. But I think here from 732A, where I said they're not going to try anything fancy. Look at them trying to play on the obelisk here. This is insane.
I actually think that AoE hitting those marches will actually mean something. That's 5 marches that could have been around this obelisk. Now, not around the obelisk. They know this is coming. They have marches now filling the obelisk in. They are prepared. Now the question is, will they be able to march fill this enough? Because the rally is coming in. The mid play looks to be in 466W's favor, so they will have control of this arc pretty handily here. My goodness. So that mid play, they should be good for mid. We'll keep our eye on the obelisk. The obelisk is getting swarmed down right now. But the thing that's tough about capturing the obelisk is there are 3 cities touching the obelisk. They should be able to reinforce, but with this amount of marches, it's going to go down. With this amount of marches, it's going to go down. Now the rally, the garrisons in the rally have to wake up, get into this obelisk, and hold it for 2 minutes. So Dirty Dan, you've seen this happen before. You've seen this happen to 732A, I believe, right? Yesterday.
Yep.
So what happened? Why is taking the obelisk such a big advantage for the opponent team, for the opposing team?
So what 732A is going to look to do here, if they can get this hold, is you have all that space right behind the obelisk that they are going to look to teleport cities onto and deny 466W cities from getting into any kind of forward position for the entirety of the match, right? We've seen this work in traditional Osiris League play where a couple whales will come in and start zeroing cities, a little bit lower power cities. You can't do this here in this mode. So GY16 kind of knowing that yesterday and plopping cities down, and they were there for the rest of the match. And there was about 4 or 5 cities of 732A that could not get up into a forward position at all. And we're about under a minute on this hold. And this is going to come down to the wire. 732A can hold on to this here.
Coming down to the wire indeed. And we've seen how important provisioning is. If you have a city of your opponent teleported right next to you, it's probably going to be harder to provision. Man, this is going to pay off if this holds on, and it is looking like it's holding on. They have 30 seconds until they could start teleporting cities, and I actually think 466W are probably going to try to deny teleport spots. You could see their marches just walking out in the middle of nowhere. They know that this is going to capture, so they're trying to deny the teleport spots. They're trying to deny the teleport spots on their side of the map. You can see they're just spreading out all over the place. Like this is KVK, and they're trying to not allow people to drop a flag. But there are some gaps. There are some holes. They're going to be able to teleport at least a couple cities in here if they find those gaps and holes here. The obelisk has been captured, so they've gained the 8 teleports. That in itself is a pretty big advantage because you could get marches out of the starting zone. And there you go. We have the first city that comes in from 732A. Now this city is probably going to start wiping the marches, trying to create more space. But this is so interesting because if you look at the rest of the map, it is blinking blue.
Wow. Yeah. Great response or not even a response, just way to like kind of chain together the series of events from 732A by putting so much pressure on the obelisk. And I mean, obviously, like that bottom side, you kind of expect it, but even to take that Sky Altar on the top side too is really impressive from 732A as they're desperately trying to clear out some of those troops. But yeah, like, that Sky Altar play is huge, and on a side where it's normal, right? Like there's none of this madness going on for an obelisk play. And this is huge here. If
second teleport in, a second to teleport in, the obelisk is still getting filled. This obelisk should fall, so it should only be 2 cities that teleport in. But do you think this is enough? Has the damage been done? I think the damage has been done just by the map, even without the obelisk. Just the desert altar, sky altar being captured, absolutely huge. And now they're up by about 1.8k. With cities back here that can consistently pester this obelisk, that could consistently pester the gatherers, that can consistently pester the marches. This is just a permanent kind of thorn on your side, similar to what 466 have been doing in the beginning of the match by setting marches to their gates. The marches are not at their gate. They're literally right next to your cities now for 732A. So, Dirty Dan, what do you think the ramifications of this play? How do you think it'll play out?
So, I think you hit everything on the head there, right? This is something that 466W is going to have to live with now. And the one extra thing that I'll key in on is that what GY16 did yesterday, which kind of plays right into their strategy, what they love to do is harass the Shrine of Life. So I would expect those 2 players to not only obviously create havoc on that obelisk consistently, but look for those players to go in and harass the Shrine of Life, as GY16 did. If they're really pulling the page from GY16 exactly, that's probably what I would see from some of these city marches here as well.
What a huge play, man! And
then also too, like here, like if they can keep flipping this obelisk back and forth, it's just going to prevent delay longer and longer 466W to get the rest of those cities up into so they could consistently keep flipping this thing back and forth and deny that.
There are cities still in the home zone. Not only are they denying the teleports from them, but they're also keeping all of these marches from 466W around this area, so they can't contest the Desert Altar because they're trying to hold on to their obelisk. This is disastrous from 466W, and what a huge play from 732A. I mean, it's funny because 466W did an obelisk play to destroy a 93T yesterday. Looks like the obelisk play will come back to bite them, because now there's an obelisk play that will come back to destroy them in this third game if they don't come back from the current state of things. And the game is at an even state while there is still more point generation from 732A. So 732A should be in the driver's seat even with 466W getting that first arc.
Yeah, and if I'm 466W, as soon as this bottom side Desert Altar, which is going to be tough, right, because they have to deal with this thorn in the side. As soon as they get their home structures under control, you got to catch this arc. You got to start putting some points up on the board, because this thing is going to inflate rather quickly. And you have to assume that bottom side Desert Altar view is going to be compromised for the entirety of the match. So I think you need to start putting points on the board in a hurry if you're 466W.
I will say also, the fact that they got the 8 teleports from capturing that obelisk. If you look at the home zone from 732A, there's only one city there. Everyone else already teleported over to their other obelisks. So they actually have a pressure advantage, even though they're sacking 2 cities to put pressure on this bottom side obelisk. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cities from 466W still at home. Only 1 from 732A. So they should have quite the advantage on their hands here. In terms of just the amount of pressure, this is like maybe an extra minute and a half that they're saving. Going to these structures, going to the Sky Altar, which is getting swarmed down as we speak. So
getting those micro optimizations, just now the numbers advantage in the field is heavily in favor of 732A. That's probably a pretty big micro optimization there.
732A taking a page from GY16 yesterday. GY16 doing to them, I believe, in game 1, right, Dirty Dan?
Yes. Yep.
Now taking that strategy, saying, hey, you know what? We lost to that. That actually looks pretty good. Let's try to do this in game 3. A win or go home game for both these teams. Throwing a wrench into 466W's plan. And now 466W, they're kind of lost. They thought that they would be playing the standard game. They thought that they'd be holding this arc, holding their structures, and going provisions. But that's severely compromised because their structures are now generating points. The Desert Altar is generating points. The Sky Altar has been taken. And now there's people provisioning on their side. They're provisioning from the cities that are on 466W's side. So they're like, hey, all right, you're going to camp us. You're going to keep attacking our marches. We'll just take your gatherers then.
Yeah, I guess it's an okay approach. Or I was going to say go for the Shrine of Life, but the Shrine of Life is already in hand for 732A. So now it makes sense to just, do something with your marches instead of just getting them destroyed over and over again. But I'm thinking back, and as we see a Wu Zetian in the garrison, that's very interesting.
Wow.
Very interesting play.
Wu Zetian. We're seeing commanders that I don't even know what they do. Like, I'm an Osiris caster. I don't honestly know what Wu Zetian does. I think she has some anti-swarm. I don't know how.
Yeah, a little bit. I can't even call back on it because she's such an old commander, but she is like a universal troop commander, so you can kind of throw anything into it and get some value. I kind of thinking about this, and I want to call back onto it. I'm wondering if 466W is gonna kick themselves for last match and going for that third arc. You know, I think that might have been like, you just stay focused, you stay on the buildings and you take all the altars and you just live with having that arc. And you also had a master strategist to play too that you can use and potentially even just stall the arc from being cached, you know? So 466W might look back on that play or that call and it might just haunt them.
I mean, that game 732A was on the ropes, walking on the edge of a tightrope, you know, trying to balance. I mean, they didn't really balance. They just stole. They just stole that arc, stole the game, and it looks like stole the series away from 466W. The momentum going all to 732A after they took that third arc away from 466W's hands. And as you were talking about, it has to be heartbreaking for whichever team loses, because 732A, imagine losing 4 games straight or 4 games in a weekend after going perfect in the Grand Prix. For 466W, imagine having the series in your hands and it being stolen and crumbling right in front of you. This is going to be a dramatic final game.
Yeah, and I was just like thinking, I'm scanning the map and I'm like, why isn't 466W cashing this arc? And I think it's probably because they know that they're down on the numbers. As you were alluding to, like the cities, they just don't, they'll, if they go into a mid-fight right now, they would have to start a rotation. I mean, soonish. They have to cash an arc first, obviously, but they have 5 cities in the back here that have a really long walk to get up here. And the numbers advantage just is not in their favor right now. So it's a really tough place to be if you're 466W. I don't really know their path to kind of like recover from this. This is really tough when this happens to you. It really rattles kind of like everyone to the core.
Yeah, I mean, man, this is gonna be the highs of beating 93T in that fashion from 466W must be intense. Going into the series, this is inverse of both of these teams' paths to the finals this series. If you look at the series in a microcosm, 466W being in the driver's seat, being in that quote-unquote winner's bracket in terms of just the series alone, winning that first game, having that second game pretty much in their hands, all of a sudden 732A clutching up, taking the arc, taking that second game, and now taking control of this third game, being up by 5.2k points. Dirty Dan, halfway into the match is absolutely bonkers, and I don't know how 466W get back into this game. How do they get back into this game?
I want to just kind of lean on the fact that you have to score arcs. Again, this bottom side is so compromised. They haven't really been able to get a good hold back on their own Desert Altar. Like, you're kind of now playing handicapped in a way where you're only going to have one altar generating points for you. It's, you know, which is supposed to be your home sky altar, but even that's under pressure here. I don't know. I honestly I'm kind of at a loss on strategy terms. I think the only option here is you got to start cashing arcs, and you got to cash them quick. But we're already about halfway through this match, and I think the room for arcs is, I think we're pretty much down to what, this is a 3 arc match at maximum now. So some moves have to whatever moves they are, they have to start being made now.
They have to start dancing is what they have to do if you're talking about moves, because the sky altar has fallen. This is supposed to be their safe altar. This is the side that's not compromised, but I guess it has been compromised because of the amount of teleported cities. No cities in the starting zone from 732A. There are still 5 cities in the starting zone of 466W, and it's gonna be a really rough clawing back into the series, because as we were talking about, even the provisioners are compromised here. And I think with the amount of provisioners out there, it honestly might be a white flag raised from 466W, because they're down in provisions, they're down in occupation, and they're still holding on to this arc. They just captured it. There you go. They just captured it. So now it is up to a 2.7k point differential.
And I have to say too, like 466W, like they're not, like, it's not as bad of a situation as yesterday that 732A saw. Like 732A literally had 6 cities teleported onto that backline of the obelisk. Like this is only 2. Like you could probably still squeeze another city or 2 on that bottom side to kind of start to rebalance out a little bit. And then the top side, you still have space to get cities in there. So it's not entirely like out of the question to get these cities up and out of that starting zone. It's really just kind of a matter of time now that they can do that. And maybe they even go for like a cap on their own if they go and take another obelisk, but they get more teleport spots. Is that a thing, right?
Yeah. I'm not. Wait. So if they capture their own obelisk, wait.
No, and the enemy obelisk.
Yeah, if they capture the enemy obelisk, they would gain a teleport spot. So
yeah, that's still a lot of time and resources that you would want to do that, and they maybe would want to have done that earlier. Like as soon as that move happened to them, they maybe wanted to counter with their own to get those teleport spots back as well. But yeah, I think 466W, it's not as a dire situation as yesterday with 732A.
It's not even as dire as game 2 for 732A. 732A were even down by more, I feel like, at this point of the match. Still able to claw it back. It is only a 3.1k advantage for 466W. So 466W somehow, some way, able to stabilize their structures, able to take back the Sky Altar, able to take back the Shrine of Life. I don't think the gathering plan from 732A here is really paying off in terms of just, you know, what these marches are capable of the havoc that they could bring. Gathering is actually probably at 466W's favor, even though they're taking away points from 466W. At least you're not, you know, harassing marches before they go into that bottom side of the map. So all things considered, with the state of the game, with what happened, I'm actually really surprised that 466W have stabilized, and now it could actually come down to that second and third arc as you were talking about. But the thing is, their provisions are compromised, and we saw last game that the provisions ended up being the make or break. So we'll have to see if they will be able to combat 732A's provisions like they were able to last game.
Yeah, and you know, I think they have the recipe for success against 732A. I do think 466W had 732A's number in its entirety in both of those two matches. I think they know how to beat this team, and now with things stabilizing, it's almost like they're not even fighting 732A anymore in a way. Of course they still are, but they're fighting the clock. Like the clock is their biggest enemy right now, because again, they need to cash arcs, and then potentially try and flip some of these buildings here. But I don't think that's nearly as important as they need to probably go in and start cashing in some of these arcs to make up this point gap.
We were talking about that Shrine of Life being under threat by those players. The Shrine of Life is under threat here. You have energetic used by both teams 5 minutes before the arc spawns. The Shrine of Life looks like it might go down. That rally is at 1k. That rally is down. They have reinforcements coming in. I actually think the Shrine of Life is safe. The Shrine of Life is going to be safe from 466W.
Yeah, that's a good hold.
So they're able to hold that. I guess if you want to look at it from, oh wow, 466W having the sentry, knowing, look at their vision here. They know exactly what's going on from 732A, and what this indicates to me is that they really want to visit these ruins. These ruins are probably there's something going on here. They're going to the steps right here. But what this indicates to me, if I was 466W, is that 732A is going to go for a building game. Yeah, that is a good call. Yeah, hiding those troops as to what should be going in for a mid rotation. Those guys are now kind of lining up and kind of like what 466W did last match to them. So 732A, again, this is what we talk about top tier teams, of being able to adapt and kind of and you know, 732A is doing that by taking pages from everyone's playbook right now and laying it on their enemy as they look to hold this lead at 3,600 points now. So it is equivalent of the next arc. So next arc is going to be a pretty big factor in terms of point and tempo. Yeah, this next arc gonna mean the world. 732A, I mean, there's one guy from 466W just chilling, saying hi to the caravans. Another guy visiting the caravans while he's chilling outside. Unfortunately, only one march could go in at a time, and he's jealously looking at his homies that are in the caravans right now. I think 732A, they don't know that 466W know, because this sentry is so, like, this is such a weird sentry to, well, not weird, but such a uncommon sentry, but such a smart sentry, because they had full vision of this Sky Altar Assault, they were able to put the right amount of marches there. And now that Sky Altar play will probably not pay out for 732A. And this is going to be a hybrid approach from both teams here, going towards this mid fight. And this is what we talked about, though. These are the marches that teleported in. They are going to be hitting marches, walking middle over and over and over again. And it's not going to be a long refresh for them. Look, they're literally walking back up. They have a triple line double C coming up at 20 seconds rather, just to be as impactful as possible with march speed. So this is going to be really good for them because they have vision with the marches. I mean, they also put down a sentry, but they also are taking down these marches to yellow so that their murder ball is going to be at least a little bit compromised, a little bit chipped by the time that they go to this mid fight.
Yeah, and if I'm those players, like after you do this and you kind of chip away at them, you gotta swing around to that Shrine of Life, right? I think that's a key play there. You swing around to that Shrine of Life. If you could take that down, you get the minus 5% health and the march speed in the middle for 466W. Sorry, I'm getting mixed up with my colors and names again. But I think that's key there if you are those players. But yeah, 732A once again having kind of that positional advantage as these guys are kind of starting to now size each other up. About a minute until Arc spawns.
A minute until Arc spawns. Yet another late mid fight. It does look like 732A have the positioning advantage, the numbers advantage. I honestly think it might go to 466W. But you could see that 466W just having the marches around the Sky Altar. These people are so patient. They've been out here for maybe like 5 minutes.
Yeah, just staring at each other.
Staring at each other. It's like it's KVK and we're waiting for a rally. But the mid fight has indeed started. It does look like 766W kind of split in this mid fight, but they do have a positioning advantage. 11 seconds, 10 seconds until this arc spawns. There are carriers from both sides right here. If we go into dot mode to see the sad faces coming out, it looks to be in 466W's favor. Look at the amount of sad faces coming out from 732A. And wait a minute here. 732A able to get a first pull, able to delay it for at least 10 seconds, but the mid fight is getting absolutely destroyed right now by 466W. 466W continuing on with this mid fight. They do have control of the arc. They have the double C on it, and it does look to be a very, very clean arc fight, a very, very clean pull, and a very, very clean pathway back into this game.
That is huge. That is huge. It's exactly what I said needed to be done. They need to go in and win these arcs, and I would expect probably a quick cash here too. I think they need to. They need to start racking up these points, and also too, like another MVP sentry from 466W, right? Like last match they had one to sniff out the sneaky tactics approach from 732A, which was going to look to go for the obelisk play then, which then kind of makes me think, like, if you're 466W and you kind of you knew that they tried that last match, you should have kind of seen it coming, or at least had the thought of it. But anyway, really good sentry placements by 466W to sniff out that Sky Altar assault. And again, they kind of have 732A's number here. Like, I feel like they're doing all the things proper to stop 732A and what they want to do. And 466W still kind of looks like the crisper team, in my opinion. Despite the obelisk play, they still look like the crisper team.
The crispiest team. 466W. I mean, I will agree that outside of that obelisk play where they were scrambling and they ended up losing the whole map, which is how this lead ended up becoming a thing in the first place. Outside of that obelisk play, outside of them losing and getting that third arc stolen from them last game, 466W have been doing everything right, have been doing everything correct, and have been trying their best and holding. But they are still down, Dirty Dan, by about 4.4k. This arc is 3.5, so that'll, you know, bring down the lead a little bit. 732A kind of trying to do a hybrid approach, trying to take the altars while contesting middle. Did not think that the Sky Altar approach would have been sniffed out and would have been scouted by 466W. And now I think that kind of threw a wrench in their plans, because if they're able to take that Sky Altar and hold it for quite some time, similar to what they're doing to this Desert Altar, I feel like it would have been fine. They would have been down in terms of the point trade overall. But with their lead and with their provisioning, they would probably still be okay. Lost control of the arc. Wait a minute here.
A little fumbling going on, still battling for the arc.
A fumble, but it's next to the Shrine of War. There could be a play here. Let's see the skills. They use Heaven's Grace Dust Up last time versus Sneaky Tactics Dust Up. So that's 5 skills compared to the 6 skill points in that last mid fight. This is a very, very... I mean, that could have been disastrous from 466W.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it ended up paying off. I was thinking maybe a sneaky tactics into stealing the Shrine of War, the arc, and the game. But there will be a third arc, and it'll come down to that third arc. It'll come down to another third arc, where this time 732A are leading. They do have the points per minute advantage. But 466W thus far have shown that, hey, like, we can go into this game plan and we're going to try our best to score these arcs.
Yeah, and again, that's just what they need to do. And 732A just needs to kind of keep the pressure on them a little bit, right? I think that with 466W kind of recovering the way that they did, I think, again, we talk about tempo, and I think that was one of the keys of success for 732A for the last match, is they needed to keep the pressure on them. And I think that they need to do that again here. Keep the pressure on, keep the tempo up. You are provisioning, but I don't let that get to your head. Just keep playing the match, and the provision points are just going to be kind of extra on top of that. So, yeah, I mean, and even right here too, a good take on the Sky Altar for 732A, and that's one of the keys to success that we always talk about is it starts with taking some altars.
Taking these structures is going to be absolutely huge. They've held this for about a minute now. There's a lot of marches from 466W rather. It will be retaken. So we're going to go into a mid fight where 732A should be up by about 2k points by the time the mid fight happens. They're going to be up by 2k points. They should have more provisions. Now the question is, do you go for the third mid fight like 466W did? Or
Yeah.
do you go for the structures? It's funny because this game's pretty much inverse of the last game, where instead of 466W being in that driving seat and having to answer said question, it's actually 732A that have to answer that question and have to respond on whichever approach that they want to do. They know that even though you have mid control, doesn't mean you have the arc in your hands. So perhaps gonna go for building play. What do you think, Dirty Day?
If I'm them, I think I do go for the building play, especially with how well they've been able to provision, as we saw in the last match. And I think also too, like what kind of, and again, when you're up in these points, it obviously is such a huge advantage because it kind of opens up your playbook a little bit more. I think you can go building focused, and then maybe a quick building attack, zero out some troops while arc spawns and whatnot, and then maybe even throw in a master strategist to, again, just delay. All you have to do is delay the arc from getting cashed, right? It's not even about winning the middle or anything like that, or it could be as simple as just preventing 466W from cashing the arc, right? Because you can capture, you can win the mid fight, but you still got to run it, and you still got to score that thing into a structure. So there's a lot of options for 732A here, but I do think that at the core they should go building focused.
They should go building focused. I mean, it does look like they're attacking these buildings. Shrine of War was defended though. Sky Altar will start generating points again for 466W. Desert Altar has already started generating points. They're trying to assault it again, but there are a ton of marches here. They're trying to attack and lay siege on this Desert Altar, but a ton of red marches, a ton of blue stat bases, and probably means that this Desert Altar will be pretty safe here. especially with the Henry Astronaut Paul getting swarmed down and sad face as well. All things considered, 466W after that obelisk play have stabilized. With this arc, if they capture it, they will be in the lead. So this is anyone's game, and it's incredible that we might see 2 back-to-back comebacks in the last 12 minutes. I talked about, yes, the last game, the last 12 minutes of that game was the most important 12 minutes for 732A. I think the last 14 minutes here from 466W will be the most important for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, props to them for even stabilizing as quickly as they did. I mean, it is, like I said, it is only 2 cities, and it's not as dire of a situation as 732A was put in yesterday, but still, it is just very, very good way to keep your composure, keep a level head, and just kind of keep moving on through this match. And we'll probably start to see some rotations now going on. 3 minutes around until Arc is going to spawn, and it looks like 732A is going to be coming to mid. So I'm starting to get some flashbacks from the last match that we were just watching here.
We got some flashbacks indeed from these 2 teams, except it's inverse, where 732A are in the lead. They're saying, hey, we are going to go middle. We are going to go try to contest you guys. 466W, I mean, they could just master strategies out the arc and be in the lead, which is insane. This is game 3. Currently a 1-1 scoreline. Whoever wins this game makes it to the grand finals. Whoever loses this game is out of the Grand Prix. So it is the highest stakes possible for these 2 teams. 732A coming from the winners bracket, or the upper bracket rather, coming from the upper bracket, losing the upper bracket semifinals to GY16. GY16 making it to the finals. So these 2 teams are fighting for the chance to fight GY16 in the finals. For 732A, it would be a chance for a rematch and redemption. For 466W, they've been fighting for redemption since the first match of this Grand Prix, as they have been in the lower bracket since the first match. They lost their first match in the Grand Prix, have gone undefeated until then, until game 2, which 466W had full control of, but was stolen. The arc was stolen from them, and thus the game. So 466W, 732A, their season's on the line. Comes down to a last arc fight, and I don't think they would have it any other way. It looks like 466W is walking up for some positioning advantages here. What do you think is going to be happening right now, Dirty Dan, in this mid fight?
I'm getting a little bit of like deja vu from yesterday. This looks kind of similar to GY16. I think 732A might have just been faking out, bringing some troops into the middle here as a small contingent of them. I think they just brought those troops into middle to kind of show face a little bit, but they are actually going for that building game and deciding to sack this third arc here, which 466W should have done in the last match.
Wow. That's going to be a huge play if it pays off. Though they're saying that with our current lead, they're up by about mental math, man. They're up by about like 3.8k, 3.7k. They're saying with our current lead, 3.7k, with our provisions, and if we take some structures, we should win the game even without this arc. So we're trying to gain as much advantage as possible by taking over the Sky Altar, by taking the Desert Altar, taking away as many points as possible. And this is what we were talking about last game. This is exactly what 466W could have done, but chose not to. So 732A are showing 466W how it's done, how to play with a lead. The fact that, you know, you do not need to go middle. You can go buildings and perhaps come back here, but it does come down to the provisions. Will 732A have more provisions from 466W? I believe the answer should be yes, because 466W have the two cities down here, compromising the provisioners from 466W in this bottom side obelisk. So all the provisioners are probably going to be coming from the top side, but that would mean half of the provisioners that would normally, or half of the map which would normally be provisioning, cannot be provisioned because of those two teleported cities. Man, this is going to be really, really rough for 466W, because the longer this arc takes to capture, the better it is for 732A.
Yeah, and I think also too, this is okay. So this, as I kind of stated, 466W looked more crisp, but I think in this instance here, I'm starting to see that 732A team that we know that kind of made a run through that upper bracket and kind of clearing out some top teams. This is very clean play by them. They opted to go for buildings. They showed face. They kind of scramble around, creating this chaos in the middle. And it almost looks like they have a numbers advantage a little bit, or not so much of an advantage, but there is still some decent numbers here, using Heaven's Grace to kind of keep some of them alive a little bit longer. And again, it's kind of just about delaying that arc, right? So 732A really cleaning it up in these last few, in this last arc rotation, and kind of showing us a glimmer of what they were in that upper bracket run, and really poised now to deny this arc or slow it down at least enough that could potentially push them into the finals against GY16.
The lead for them getting larger and larger and larger. We said it was at like a 3.6. Now it's at like a 3.8. You could see that the point gap is widening and widening. 3.9 now. This arc only gives 4K points. So you have to be really, really, really you have to be really confident in your provisions if you're 466W, or this is going to be GG's for them. This is lights out. This is going to be a captured arc, which is, you know, step one. That's great for them. They're able to capture. That's crazy that they captured all three arcs, by the way. They're going to capture all three arcs and still lose the game. Is that going to be the play? Master strategist used by 466W. They're going to be teleporting some of the marches that were defending this arc to this bottom side sky altar. So they're going to be trying to take away some of these structures. It is pretty much an 800 point lead from 732A with the arc already being captured. So they need to make up some points somehow. They decide to make up the points by trying to take over, trying to siege down this bottom side sky altar, because the desert altar is heavily in 732A's control. So is the sky altar. So this is gonna be, if you check the points per minute, 810 points per minute to 180 points per minute, Dirty Dan.
Wow.
And that is the name of the game from 732A this match. Scrambling out the obelisk play, making that obelisk play confused and distracted 466W, because they were trying to deny the teleports, but they sacked the rest of their map for about 3-4 minutes, which gave them being 732A that 4K point advantage, and they have been leveraging that advantage, going buildings and you know, making sure that 466W do not have a way back into this game.
Yeah, they've been holding on to these four altars now, as we get a to the death on the desert altar for a defense here, and again, like I said, the 732A kind of cleaning up their play a little bit here, and I like this call here on a to the death. You have the points on the board. This works perfectly for what to the death does. You have about 30 troops, probably a little bit less, but you know, you're not overcasting it with the amount of troops that you have, and I think a really nice skill call here from 732A to try and get an extended hold on this altar, and 3 altars in hand for 732A. They did lose that assault on the sky altar, but it probably will flip back relatively quickly. So they are really doing kind of like a master class in a way of how to close out a match when you have the lead, and choosing to go for that building focus. And I'm very curious to see what score this is going to inflate to after all these provisioners start coming in.
Yeah, there you Dan. You know the drill. Let me know when provisioners are coming in from 732A. I think the provisioners or 466S or 466W rather, but I don't really see that many provisioners from 466W. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Compared to there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 just in this one area from 732A.
Yeah,
using
it looks
a
like
sentry to put down and find those nodes.
Yeah, it looks like 732A recalled all the provisioners from their bottom side. So top side is probably where a majority of the rest of these points on their provisions are going to come from. I definitely will keep an eye on that as we still have a little bit of time here. I don't think they're going to start recalling just yet, but I definitely will give you the call when they start coming in.
Up by 1.5k. I don't know if it will take 466W out provisioning not only the current deficit that they're down 1.6k, but the deficit that they will continue to be down because of the points per minute. 700 points per minute to 230 points per minute. I think this is wraps. I think 732A stole the series from 466W.
In dramatic fashion, or poetic fashion, I should say, by taking the play that crumbled them yesterday against GY16, sharpening up their strategy, and then showing 466W how to close out a match, opting to fake out the mid rotation on the third arc, saying no, we're gonna leave this and we're gonna go take all of your altars and we're gonna hold them for this what feels like almost 10 minutes now. And as you're calling it, this score is starting to inflate and provisioners are still on the board, and you've cut half of the provisioners out from what 466W is able to do. So really poetic fashion, 732A clawing their way and keeping their Grand Prix hopes alive.
732A was 1 second away from not making it this far, but their arc carrier in that third arc in the second game, able to get the first tap, able to get the first pull, able to get that first victory, which brought 732A to this match point. And as you said, that obelisk play, in poetic fashion, the same obelisk play that made them lose yesterday against UI16, made them win against 46W today. At least if things go according to plan, but there is still about 2 minutes left. Can 466W provision up 2.4k? I would say no, but we've seen some pretty crazy things this Grand Prix thus far.
Some are coming in for 732A right now. There was just a couple that came through, cashing in about 1,000 points each from that top side. So yeah, this thing is now starting to kind of grow out of reach for 466W. As
they're down by about like 3.3 now. Wow.
Yeah, I'm scanning the map and I just don't see enough provisioners for 466W to make up this gap in this short amount of time.
My goodness. The lower bracket run from 466W, a heroic lower bracket run, stopped and stunted by a stolen arc from 732A. All it took was one arc, one player, one set of skills, sneaky tactics into master strategies, and this series has been flipped on its head, has brought 466W to their knees as we are down to 1 minute and they are down to by 3k.
Yeah, you almost can't believe it, right? And I've had the pleasure of watching 732A over the past few days, and it looked very grim for them, especially going down that first match in 466W, and
they lost by 10k game one. Let's bring that back. Wait, let's bring that back. They lost by 10k to 466W 2 hours ago. Now they're winning by 4.5, and they won that second game by about 1k. Overall, if we go by just general score in terms of point differential, 466W would actually be in the lead. But luckily for 732A, we're not going by point differential. We're going based off of the match score, based off of the clutchness, based off of what you can do. And 732A have done it. They've stolen the series from 466W in dramatic fashion. 732A are making it to your Grand Prix finals for a rematch against GY16 next week. Dirty Dan, do you have any final words?
No, just goosebumps. You just send shivers down my spine, Plato. This is going to be a crazy matchup. 732A getting the redemption call for GY16, and you know they're going to have a week to kind of sharpen some things. And you know, I think it's honestly, Brian made a good point yesterday. You learn the most from your losses, and they've lost against the best so far, and they do have quite the mountain to climb next week, as you were stating. There's a couple extra losses that GY16 is going to be able to afford. So both teams next week are going to be coming out swinging, and we might see even more funky stuff that we haven't seen, which I thought was impossible going into today's matches. But who knows? We might see even more funky stuff tomorrow, next week. So, man, what a tournament it's been.
Be sure to subscribe to the official Rise of Kingdoms channel, this channel that you're watching this stream on right now, for more Grand Prix content, the last Grand Prix content of 2024, the Grand Finals. It'll be 732A versus GY16, a rematch of the upper bracket semifinals. And we will see you guys there. If you enjoyed the commentary, Dirty Dan and I's channels are in the description, and we'll catch you guys next time. Peace.